Well, it's
So you start, I go to Michelle.
very.
Well, just, yeah.
All right, good afternoon, and welcome to the March 7th, 2017 Board of Directors meeting is hereby called to order for the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. Will everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Well, this is fantastic when we have standing room only for a school board meeting. I'm sure we can guess why we are all here, but thank you so much for coming and attending. This is a very exciting time, and we appreciate your participation. We are now at section 3.0, the roll call. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Andrews? Director Lassane?
Present.
President Mason?
Present.
Director Mitchell? President Wenta?
Present.
Student Representative Carrillo?
Present.
Student Representative Parikh.
Thank you. We're now at section 4.0, the adoption of the agenda. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce the agenda?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Consistent with the plans established at your 2016 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is a segment this evening for routine business. There's a segment for recognition items, actually a large segment for recognition items, a segment for strategic progress reporting, a segment for information items, one for new business, a segment for upcoming agenda items, and one for board comments. There is also an executive session, as I recall, a closed session this evening following the board meeting. There have been no changes to the agenda since we published it. However, as is customary for regular meetings, item 8.1, the superintendent's report, will be updated during the meeting. The board may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. We have not made any changes since publishing it. Therefore, we ask that you approve it as published.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cohn. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mason to accept the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. We're now at section 5.0, and we have some very special recognitions for today. Dr. Cohn.
Thank you very much. Item 5.1 is a recognition of the Regional Principal of the Year, actually the Regional Elementary Principal of the Year. Cindy Foster was named by the Snohomish Regional, she was named by the Association of Washington School Principals, the Snohomish Regional Principal of the Year. And we're going to ask Dr. Joyce Stewart, our Deputy Superintendent and the Supervisor for North Region Schools, to step to the lectern and introduce the award and severely embarrass Cindy Foster.
Okay, so let's start the embarrassment by having Cindy come up here. Yeah, she loves being up in front of people, so I know you're counting the seconds till this is over, but I'm going to make it last a long time, so here we go. So anyway, I think everybody in this room has a cell phone. You probably get a lot of messages, you text messages, phone calls on your cell phones, and there are some of them that we remember and some of them we forget. Well, last fall, I got a phone call that I'll always remember. It was from Dr. Jones, and he said that he and some of his colleagues were going to nominate you for this Regional Elementary Principal Award. And he went on to tell why, and I felt that was really, really meaningful. But even more, I was touched because to think that her colleagues are very, very busy, and they're going to take the time out to fill out this application because they care so much about you. They respect you in so many ways. So I thought it was appropriate that I want to honor that they did this, and I want to share with everybody in this room what they wrote. So, I mean, it's a long application, so we could be here a long time tonight, so I'm just going to pick a couple paragraphs, so just bear with me. So Ms. Foster inspires her school community to continually provide the most effective programs and services to meet the needs of each unique learner. Cindy has trained her teacher teams to work in collaborative, professional learning communities, gathering and reflecting on formative data and creating responsive classroom activities to address identified students. At Lowell, each learner is well known and each growth step is celebrated. Learning is expected of adults too. Cindy trains teachers to serve as instructional coaches for each other, especially in the areas of reading and mathematics instruction. As a result, classrooms are tightly coordinated, grade levels are tightly articulated, and instruction is tightly aligned to the standards. Mrs. Foster strategically guides the professional learning of her teacher teams, balancing the urgency for change with time to develop deep understanding and acquire competence throughout implementation. Teachers are well supported with ongoing training. As a lifelong learner herself, Ms. Foster models this essential trait as a professional educator. Throughout the school, there is a positive, can-do attitude and environment. Not surprisingly, under Ms. Foster's leadership, Lowell Elementary recently, and you board members remember this, just recently, they were all here, received the Title I award for exceeding performance in math and /ELA. So I also want to talk to you about part of my day today. So part of my day is I went to Lowell, and you walk in, and guess what? It was a great big banner there. It said it was Cindy Foster Day at Lowell Elementary. So then I got to see lots of kids walking with their flowers into her office, putting them in the vase, walking out of their office in nice little straight rows. So there were all kinds of flower parades going on at Lowell today. And if you went to her office, it was filled with flowers. But you can't leave Lowell Elementary without checking out a book. You know, the environment is a culture of reading. So I decided that I wasn't going to leave Lowell until I got into the library and checked out a book. I have all my fines paid. I have all my books turned in. So I was able to go check out a book. So I'm going to share with you this book I checked out. So I was expecting just a tiny book with the checkout. So instead, this is a book that all the students at Lowell created for Cindy Foster. There are over 500 letters to her from students there, lots of notes from teachers, and it says, Mrs. Foster, Principal of the Year. But you know, usually you can have a book for 2 days. They told me I get 2 hours with this book. So anyway, I'm going to quickly read for you some of the comments. So there's so many in here, so I just tagged a couple here. So, Dear Mrs. Foster, roses are red. Tulips have color when I think of you. You are the most greatest. You are the helper of my, this is one just really touches my heart. You are the helper to my heart. You shine bright like the northern star. You are great as you are. Congratulations, Mrs. Foster, for being the greatest principal ever. You are important. I am glad you are a principal because you are #1 in the history of principals. It's really fun doing the Motto Monday. It's awesome. I read a lot about Motto Mondays in this book today, so anyway, next one, congratulations. I am glad everyone knows what we already knew. You are the best, all in capitals too, with an exclamation point. Thank you for everything you do to inspire me to grow and do my best. I am so grateful for how much effort you put into being an advocate for me. Your support is outstanding. For all you do, we love you. Okay, so let's go into another. They did an acrostic poem here for Mrs. Foster. C is for congratulations. I guess it was just C Foster. That's a way to cut it short, isn't it? F is for fantastic. O is for optimistic. S is for super principal. T is for thankful for everyone. E is for eventually. R is for radical. Woo. And then that was a student. Okay, let's get here. This is from a staff member. I got to remember if I can read cursive writing here. Dear Cindy, from one who has worked with so many different principals over the year, you are the best. I know in all my conversations with you that you put the kids always at the center and always look for the best ways to support and work with all of us. It is an honor and privilege to work with you. Okay, just a couple more. Mrs. Foster, when I first met you, I felt like you were my second mother. Yep. That's how nice and kind you are, and so principally you are. And when I first came here to Lowell Elementary in 3rd grade, I was wondering, Isn't my principal going to be nice? Yep, she sure is. Now I know that you are for sure. All right, let's see here. Let's see, maybe I'll jump to a couple back here. Okay, here's one. I am Avery Anderson. I'm 11 years old. I'm in 5th grade, and I am in your leadership team. Ever since I was in 1st grade, I've been inspired by you, Principal Foster. You are the best principal in the entire world. Keep inspiring all those teachers and kids. You are truly a Lowell leopard. And then let me just end with this one, because I know you're getting a little nervous up here. Dear Mrs. Foster, you are the best principal I know. You're funny, caring, beautiful, lively, and an outgoing and reaching person. Your personality is kind and loving with, I like this, with a hint of curiosity. Do me a favor. Never lose your caring personality and shine through every occasion. So Cindy, I just want to say one of our jobs, I mean, this goes on and on, but one of our jobs is really to, as a mother and as an educator, to create lifetime memories for our students. And when you look back here, this is truly, your staff has created a lifetime memory for you. Look at how much they love and care and respect you. So with that, I'd like to invite all the Lowell Leopards to stand, and we're going to sing your Lowell song. All right, so now, Daniel, the music teacher, couldn't be here, so I'm just going to pretend I directed music, and you're going to, how does it go? So,
Ready, go. I work hard, I show respect, I make good choices. I am a Lowell leopard.
and they also presented Cindy at the end of the day with a plaque. And at the staff, it says, presented to Cindy Foster, you work hard, you show respect, you make good choices, you are a Lowell leopard. So that, and we'd like to give you some flowers.
Thank you.
And I really think it's appropriate. I met some really special people. All of you are special, but there are 2 people who are really special who are here today. And Cindy, I'd like you to introduce your mom and dad.
Yeah, my mom and dad are here, and my sister and my niece. There,
So if they could please stand. You get to Oh, one more. There's a lady in the audience that has something really special to present to you. She just told me. So
Okay.
Cindy's very active in the neighborhood group, and we have a member from that group who would like to come up and present her a gift.
Yes,
So.
yes. 150 years of Lowell history. There's a whole chapter about Lowell School in there, and I met Cindy at a PK meeting and then at our Lowell meetings.
Yes.
And so this is your personal own copy.
Awesome. Thank you so
And he's the greatest.
I just want to say thank you. There is a picture, this is kind of a funny thing. I've looked at this book before, and there's a picture of a principal in here, and she's frolicking in a garden in a big flowing gown. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a little underdressed. But anyway, I love this book. Thank you to the Lowell Association. I really appreciate that. It's really, really important for me to say one thing, and this award is not really for me, it's for my staff. They took me from a very naive, new, inexperienced principal to who I am today, and they've overwhelmed me with love today, so I just want to say thank you to them. So let's give them a hand. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge them. Thank you, Dr. Stewart.
And Cindy, you always wear the best shoes, and I'm jealous because when you wear heels like that, bunions, girl. So I just want you to know you're in trouble. Here you go. All right?
Thank you.
Here you
Thank
go.
you, Dr.
And you're going to go out.
So I think what we want to do is we want to get a picture. No, you're good. We're going to take a picture out in the foyer and with the staff, with mom and dad, with your niece, because we want you all in the picture. So we're going to do that real quick.
Thank you. Yes.
special recognition by Sally Lancaster. Dr. Lancaster.
Okay, the PTSA members and I were trying to come up with a song during that little picture, so I'm a little bit nervous following the Lowell Leopards. Sticking with the flower theme and the fact that these wonderful March showers bring April flowers, I'm going to incorporate that into our recognition of our PTA. This year, the National PTA celebrated 120 years of serving schools. You think about 125 years of our Everett history, and it's kind of wonderful to think about these two great organizations maturing together. So I'd like to recognize our PTA council and president. So I'm going to ask that the council members and PTA presidents that are here, please come stand right behind me here while I brag about you for a minute. But I'm going to talk about flowers first, okay? So it's almost that time of year that we can go up to La Conner and see all of these beautiful, colorful tulip fields. And when you look at those and you look at the beauty, it's really easy to overlook all of the work that goes into making them so beautiful. You know, the ground has to be tilled, the weeds pulled, the bulbs planted, it has to be fertilized and sunshine and water all in the right amounts at the right time. It takes a lot of time and money and energy and effort to get those fields looking that way so that we can enjoy them and enjoy the beautiful flowers that come out of that. Growing flowers is a lot like our PTSA. These leaders put in countless hours with their schools doing groundwork that we need. To make sure that we have a great product through our student experience. They host events, raise funds, volunteer in classes, they organize, they prepare, and they work tirelessly for our students. The leaders in our PTSA Council represent over 90 years of experience. That's a pretty impressive statistic because you guys all look so young. Collectively, this year, our 26 PTSAs have raised over $500,000 for our schools. They have harnessed the energy and signed up 5,026 members, which I bet has gone up since the last time I got that number. And they've hosted 240 events. They awarded $277,000 in classroom and school grants. They've hosted many programs and events. They donate to our community. They recognize our staff, and they volunteer at our school. And through their hard work and their energy and their effort, our students bloom and blossom in our schools, and we couldn't be more grateful. So I'd like to ask Dr. Stewart and Mr. Fleckenstein and Dr. Scott to help us with some flowers and present these to our wonderful PTSA leaders, and thank you very much for your effort. We appreciate everything that you do. So. Thank you. And Michelle Nims would like to say a few words. She is our PTSA state president, as well as the election, which she's running unopposed, goes well as our.
Well, I would just like to take the opportunity to thank you for this recognition. You have a really small group of people here in front of you. There are quite literally hundreds of people that should be with us back here. This is not done by this small group of people. You have parents, you have mothers and fathers who are also brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and neighbors and colleagues. They all wear multiple hats. They go into our schools each and every day to make them a better place, not just for their child, but for all children here in Everett. They present junior achievement, they're art docents, they pop popcorn, they help kindergartners get to class on time, they chaperone field trips, they do art projects, they cut hundreds of paper hearts or shamrocks or anything that the teachers need. They make copies, they put together newsletters, they try and communicate what's going on in their community and how the parents at that school can get involved. This is not something that one person or 10 people can do. It quite literally is hundreds of people that aren't here to hear your thanks. So I hope as you go visit our schools, you share the message of appreciation out, because we might be the faces that you see the most, but we certainly don't do this work alone, and we do appreciate it is a blessing at the state level where I work to be able to speak to how supportive this district is as a whole of parents and family engagement, to know that our families are welcome in our schools, to know that it's appreciated, that they help make it a better place. So we certainly don't do this alone. We appreciate the recognition very, very much, and to all those not in the room with us as well. So thank you very much for this afternoon.
That's really good. I think we'd like to get a picture up front, if possible. Yeah, that would be great.
Wait, if you have flowers, you have to come back.
Bring the flowers up.
There's no escape.
Just get tight.
We might have to do
You're gonna have to get tighter.
2 rows, yeah.
I think they're telling us we need another row, so anybody that's under, 5'4".
Can you get us, or should I go over there?
I can get on with you, yeah. Okay. Oops, did you turn it on? There we go. And one last one, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, now we have a very special recognition. And Dr. Cohn, are you ready for this recognition to Rose Smith?
I think I'm ready to start this out, yes.
All right.
So before we get rolling here, well, let's just get rolling here. So each year, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, our Snohomish County chapter, holds a celebration honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As part of that celebration, students are invited to submit essays and art for what we've called the Prodigies of Peace competition. Student works judged by members of the community, and students earning places in each grade band are honored at a community celebration, and following that, we like to honor them at board meetings. In addition to that, the NAACP holds annually a gala and honors a number of members of the community. We have chosen to sort of sneak in that little award this evening, even though it wasn't part of the published agenda. And I would like to invite Rose Smith to come to the lectern for just a moment so that we can honor her selection by the NAACP for receipt of what is called the President's Award. Rose is a remarkable teacher in Everett Public Schools. She currently teaches at Jackson High School. She is, in my view, one of the people who is responsible for the success of wonderful programs for children of color in our district, like the Youth Development Program, the Minority, or now My Achievers Program, and the Students of Color Career Conference. Those are 3 activities, 3 events, 3 undertakings that we participate in with the NAACP and Everett Community College and some private organizations in the community that support the equity work that we do in concert with our community. Rose is one of those people who sets an incredible example, is always positive about the work that we're doing, always has a kind word for students, and always has something to contribute to the work of our district, her school, and the kids who look to her for leadership and support as they grow and develop into young men and women. So we have our own little certificate for you, Rose. We're not going to try to compete with NAACP's recognition, but the board president has a little certificate from us to present to you so that we can recognize you just as a school district for the remarkable contributions that you make to the community and to us, and to honor the award that you've received from the association.
Thank you.
So we want to thank you very much.
Did you have anything that you'd like to share?
Oh, I'd like to say thank you, and on behalf of my students and myself, I wanted to say that this is pretty much not a job. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my students, and on behalf of Jackson and myself, I want to say thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come on now, please.
You had one of my daughters.
So, that's all good, right? So we have a certificate of recognition for Rose Smith, and I was just sharing with her that one of my daughters was in her class. They're doing quite well, so that's a testament to certainly your ability. But this is a certificate of recognition awarded to Rose Smith for earning the Snohomish County branch of the NAACP President's Award and for the integral work for youth development program in the multicultural support at Henry M. Jackson High School. Congratulations. Oh, where's the husband? Yeah, absolutely.
So as we move on to the actual published portion of the agenda for the recognitions this evening, I want to let everyone know that Dr. Janice Green, who is president of the NAACP, sends her regards, her congratulations to all the students and to Rose, and wants you all to know that she wishes she could be here with us this evening, but she's got a work commitment that keeps her in Seattle with the Boeing company for which she works this evening. So we're going to go ahead and start with the honors of the students who have received these awards, and I'm going to ask Dr. Stewart to step up to the lectern, to which we added a little bit of modification for the students because we know that they're going to need to be a little bit higher to read and talk with us a little bit this evening. I want you students to know that you don't have to lean into that microphone. It's pretty sensitive. So Dr. Stewart or the person who's helping you with your principal will adjust it for you. And Dr. Stewart is going to go ahead and sort of act as our MC. Wow, you're taller right now.
I got taller.
How's that
I've
feel?
always wanted to be taller, so here I am.
there you go.
So I'm going to enjoy this too.
So let's go ahead and commence.
Prodigies for Peace. So those are two really strong words, and I know probably everyone in the audience understands the definition anyway of peace, but I wonder how many people can explain what prodigy means. So I decided to look it up, and I thought the definitions are very fitting for these awards. So the definitions are a person, especially a child, of unusual or marvelous and exceptional talents. Anything that is a cause of wonder and amazement. An act, an event, a piece of work so extraordinary or rare that it inspires wonder. So if you look around this evening, 5 years ago we had a handful of students. Tonight we are so proud because we have over 24 students. Not all of them could be here tonight, but this is a big deal, and we're especially appreciative to the principals and teachers who inspired the students to participate in this competition. So tonight we're going to honor these students who demonstrated those unusual and exceptional talents, and they are inspiring all of us this evening, and I think you'll really feel inspired after you hear their essays, and then the art winners are going to explain their pieces of art to each of you. So we're going to start with the North Region, so I'm going to invite Ms. Farias to come up she's the principal of View Ridge Elementary. She's going to introduce one student at a time. They're going to share, like I said, the essay or piece of art, and then we'll continue to the Central Region, where Dr. Lancaster will invite the principals, and then finally end with the South Region, where Mr. Fleckenstein will introduce the Heatherwood principal. So, Ms. Frias?
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and prodigy is an appropriate word because you are inspiring. Can you hear me all right?
You can just stand up. We'll hear you fine.
Oh, okay.
Very sensitive, so you're good.
I thought you said I did have to. I'm like, oh gosh. Okay. So we had 5 students who received recognition. 2 of them could be here tonight. So I'd first like to introduce Alana O'Neill from Mr. Hashimoto's class, who received first place for her essay.
Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream. His dream was that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream too. I have a dream for myself, to work hard so I can get into a good college and have a job that I like. My family will survive and prosper for a long time to come. My school will keep giving each kid a chance to learn. My community will never avoid someone because of their race, religion, or gender identity. My environment will not be littered in or have recyclables in landfills, and people will help stop pollution. My world will live without war, and there will be only goodwill, and we will settle our arguments civilly.
We also had a third place recipient for her essay who could not be here, Valerie Gutierrez. And then we had 2 art honorable mentions who could not be here, Tammy Jordan and Mackenzie Carlson. All 3 of these students are from Mr. Hashimoto's class. And then we had a first place art winner who could be here today from Mr. Hashimoto's class, and that's Lily Hansen. Please come up, Lily.
So this is my art, and I put all the different textures and colors in to represent all the people coming into one. So I have America embroidered on his collar. I put it there because of justice and liberty. And I also put at the bottom, "We shall overcome," and because that's one of his well-known songs. And I put the world confronting, which means everyone coming together in one, I think. So that's my art.
That's what I was going to say, if we could see it.
Right past them so they can see it.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I like that a lot.
Okay, now I'd like to invite Mr. Tony Wentworth. He's the principal of Whittier Elementary School.
And we have 3 winners, but as I look into the audience, they were not able to make it tonight. But all 3 did attend the Prodigies of Peace ceremony 2 weeks ago, and that was a big honor for them. So first, Noah Calderwood received 2nd place for her essay, and she's a 4th grader in Mrs. Shearer's class. And Avani Napier received 3rd place for her essay, and she is in Mrs. Reyes's class. And then Coben Chadwick is a third grade student in Mrs. Reyes's class, and he was honorable mention for his artwork. And so I will make sure to get these certificates to them. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Paul Edwards, principal of Emerson Elementary School, and he can introduce his student.
Well, it's just an honor to be able to introduce to you Owen Rivera. He was a first place winner in the writing contest. Owen's one of our student leaders at Emerson, even helping out at recess with some of our littler folks and one of our best readers. So, Owen, I'm going to have you come up.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream was to have equal rights with every race and to not judge someone by the color of their skin, but the content of their soul. My dream is that I can get a good education and job while not falling to the temptation of drugs or alcohol. My dream for my family is for us all to have peace. My dream for my school is that we can have a better education. My dream for my community is that we could have less crime and cleaner streets. My dream for my environment is that people will stop chopping down trees to build houses. My dream for my world is that everyone can be accepted, no matter their religion, skin color, or sexuality.
Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Gerard Holzman, principal of Monroe Elementary, and he, I think, has a large contingent of students from Monroe.
And I like this riser, so if I come back to you, it might be useful. I can see you all. We had 8 students at Monroe place in the contest of about 30 that entered this year. And so I'd like to introduce them to you. 5 of them are able to be with us tonight. So the first one I'll ask up here is one of our 5th graders, Jaden Wilson.
Tonight, as I go to sleep, I think about Martin Luther King Jr. and all the wonderful things he did. I think about how I can be like him, how I can be a prodigy of peace. One way I can be a prodigy of peace is by making donations. For instance, I can donate all of my old clothes that are too small to local donation sites. I could give gifts during holidays to charity. One of my favorite charities is Goodwill because you donate things and they make the prices cheap enough so people in need can buy enjoyable things that they can afford. This charity makes me think about what good I'm doing for the world and the people in need. Just like how Martin Luther King Jr. helped people who were not getting equal rights. Another way I can be a prodigy of peace is to be kind to others. One way I can be kind to others is by standing up for them, just like how Martin Luther King Jr. stood up for all people during and after the Civil Rights Movement. Another way I can be kind to others is by helping people up if they fall and by not calling them names. One very important thing that I can do to help the world and be a prodigy of peace is to show people and kids about what's wrong and what's right. Just like when someone bombed Martin Luther King Jr.'s house, his followers wanted to hurt the person who did the damage. But instead of wanting to fight back, Martin Luther King Jr. told the angry crowd to love their enemies, not hate them. By doing this, he was showing people what was right in a situation like this. This made the world a better place. He was being a leader and a prodigy of peace. I feel like I can also be a prodigy of peace by helping others in need. A very good way I can help others in need is by volunteering at local homeless shelters. I could also help others in need by volunteering at the local soup kitchen. But one of the most important is to take care of our seniors by visiting senior centers. Also by volunteering at animal shelters. As I thought about these things, I realized that anyone can be a king throughout their life as long as they feel the need to make our world a better place and be a prodigy of peace.
It's obvious why Jaden was a first place winner in the essay contest. Next, I have some winners in our art contest. The first person I'd like to invite up is a 4th grader, Grace Lynn Duder, who won 2nd place in art.
When I drew this picture, I thought of the power of kindness being used for good and not bad. and how kindness sees no color and only love.
Kindness does.
Another second place winner in art is a fourth grader, Tessa Hahn.
What inspired me to do this art piece is this year's theme, Love Overcomes Hate. My art piece represents how Martin Luther King fought for our country.
Next, we have a third place winner in art, a third grader, Luke Hammond.
This picture, I wanted to draw, it's an eagle in it. It's for courage, strength, and freedom, and Martin Luther King wanted freedom for everyone.
And an honorable mention in art is Mia Valencia, one of our fifth graders.
When I did my art piece, I thought of how all colors of people connected together and how Dr. Martin Luther King made a difference and helped that happen. So I thought of, since all people of color connected, I thought of puzzle pieces, and I thought how puzzle pieces always connected together and how people of color connected together. So I thought that that would be part of my art project, and I thought that's how great that would come together for all color of people are connecting as puzzle pieces. Thank you.
Like that.
We had three other winners from our school who placed and could not be here because of other engagements. Emily Conch was a third grader who placed first place in art. Maya Arnold, another fourth grader who placed honorable mention in art. And Sophia Smith, a third grader who placed honorable mention in art. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Sasnath, who's showing their artworks, who is our art specialist at Monroe, and Miss Emily Brunswick Nelson, who was our fifth grader, both who inspired their kids to do the work this time.
Excellent. Thank you for your work.
Well, to recognize our final student award winners, I'd like to invite Principal of Heatherwood Middle School, Laura Phillips, up to the lectern.
We are excited at Heatherwood because we had 6 students recognized as prodigies of peace. 2 of them could not be here, but we do have their art. Vishnu Chandramoli was honorably mentioned. Ms. Kaufman is going to show Vishnu's art, as was Laura Anderreg, honorably mentioned. We have 4 students that are here with us tonight, and we will start with our first place winner, who, like some of us tonight, does not need this stand, but she will do okay. Please welcome Ashley Lang.
Martin Luther King had a dream for everyone to not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In my eyes, this will come true when people of all races live together in peace, where race isn't the first characteristic noticed by the people. My painting shows people of all races putting their hands together to form a peace sign, showing that people of all races can work together to find peace in the world.
I forgot to say a special recognition to their wonderful art teacher who not only helps our students in an amazing art program, but also supports them in writing amazing artist statements. Those were written for the piece of work long before this event. In fact, I think they had to find them, correct? Yeah. Okay, our next student being recognized tonight is Taylor Bird.
When I think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, I believe it could come true if we didn't judge people by the color of their skin, but by their personality. We have made improvement on his dream. My artwork represents something we have today, but we didn't have before. It shows that friendships and relationships between black and white people are just as powerful as two people of the same race.
The shortened version.
And receiving third place is 6 Brazelton.
If Martin Luther King's dream came true, we would hear that the world is at peace. People would walk together, have conversations together, and not care about what race they are. Women would have the same rights as men and would be able to get the same education as men. Everyone would love and care for each other, and no one would be left behind.
And our final student receiving a certificate of recognition is Siobhan Williams.
In my eyes, Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream has come true in many ways. There are still flaws, but we can work to achieve them over time. I painted this artwork because it shows how everyone can mix together and understand each other. By knowing each other, it will help us treat each other equally.
Well,
And I think that concludes the recognition for the students this evening. So while Mike and Jeff pick up the podium and put it away, because I think the students are finished this evening, I'd like to just take a moment to thank the students for their participation. You know, it takes a little bit of courage to put your work out there for people to judge, and then when you're recognized, to stand up in front of an auditorium full of folks or a bunch of folks at a school board meeting and read your essay or explain your artwork. And I want to thank the students for having the courage to display their talent and to display their creativity and to talk about it with us and be with us this evening. I also want to thank the teachers who have supported the students in this work. This is a voluntary activity in districts across Snohomish County. I want to thank principals and teachers for making students aware of this, for participating in the contest. I will tell you that the first year I was up on stage as part of the awards at the event that is now held at the Senior Center in Everett, I think we might have had 1 or 2 or 3 Everett students receiving awards. There are over 24 this time around. That's because of the folks in our district who have picked up this project and put it in front of students. And I'm looking forward to more and more and more of that participation over time. I want to thank folks from the NAACP who I recognize in the audience now that I put my glasses on for being here and supporting the students in this activity as well. And I want to thank especially President Green for her support of this activity and for all of the work that we do in partnership with the association and the other organizations like Everett Community College that helps us with our work with students. I want to thank the staff in our schools for supporting kids in this effort and frankly, as you have heard me say on a number of occasions in schools and in public, during what I think we could agree is a time of some national turmoil around a variety of issues, our folks in Everett Public Schools have done an incredible job providing services, providing support, and keeping that calm that's so darn important for kids to be supported day in and day out, no matter where they come from, no matter what their situation is. They know that this is a safe place for them, for their families, and to be creative and to display their work and to step out and to take some risks. So I want to thank the staff, I want to thank the community members who support this, and I want to thank the kids who keep showing us the way. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being here for this recognition this evening. I think for those students who like a picture with the school board, why don't you go ahead and step out into the foyer and we will go ahead and take photos now.
Section 6.0, the public comments of our board agenda. The school board specifically sets aside 2 times during the regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspectives you can bring to the table. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests for comments during the first public comment agenda time slot?
Yes, indeed, there are. We have 2 this evening, and the first is Brenda Bolanos Ivory, and she's going to come to the lectern, and she would like to address the board on drug education, and I will share with you that the green light that you will see signifies the start of the 3 minutes. The yellow is a 30-second warning, and the red signifies the expiration of the 3 minutes. All righty?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight was so amazing, I have to say. I live in Lowell, too, so for Principal Cindy Foster to win is just wonderful. I mean, our whole community is buzzing about it. Not just, I don't have kids in the school, but Lowell Elementary is the heart of Lowell. It's our heart, and we do so much with our community in the school. And what brings me here is also, it's kind of seen tonight how seamless the community is in our school districts. Our teachers, our students, our staff, our board, and everyone is just so seamlessly integrated. And I'm a member of the Envision Everett Committee that's planning the next 20 years of Everett, and I wanted to share that over and over, we're halfway through a 6-month process, and over in our meetings, we talk about having a seamless community in our city. And we keep coming back to our schools have that, and our schools are the heart of Everett. So that's why I came here tonight, is just to share with you that the Envision Committee has, not just realized, we've just realized how great you are and how we want to emulate and work together. So I just wanted to say thank you and look forward to our city becoming seamless as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. We appreciate your service as well.
All right, the second comment this evening is Ed Glazer, who is notes he's a resident of the district. I would note that he's a retired longtime educator, is continuing to sub in the district, and I think is known by many as one of the parents of the My Achievers program. Mr. Glazer, you know how the timers work.
Yes, thank you. The red light should be on already. We are in a bizarre, surreal, and to use words tonight that Dr. Cohen read, unreal national turmoil and very frightening times for many of our Mexican, Latino, Muslim students and their families. Has this board said or done anything to address these concerns? Anxiety is an understatement. Students, Latino students, Mexican students, Muslim students, immigrant students are being harassed and marginalized by authorities and others, even within the schools of Everett. And yet Everett Public Schools, until very recently, has remained silent. The superintendent did, a few weeks ago, come out with a statement of inclusion. And in it, he said Everett schools are a safe haven. How widely disseminated was that message? That message that he wrote is not on the forefront of the Everett website, but you have to search for it. This board, as far as I know, has remained absolutely silent regarding the safety, security, and well-being of the Muslim, Mexican, Latino, and immigrant students and their families. Will Everett Public Schools at any time ask students for immigration status? Will Everett Public Schools allow Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents access to any student records and/or student? I ask these questions. I'm asking for a written response from the board. I am very disappointed that publicly I have not heard anything from the school board. This community, many members in our community are in fact suffering and hurting. These are uncharted waters. And as leaders, as representatives of the community, you have an obligation to speak out and to stand up. I'll paraphrase the pastor Martin Neumüller. When they came for the protesters, I did not stand up and speak out because I was not a protester. When they came for the Muslims, I did not stand up and speak out because I was not a Muslim. When they came for the undocumented immigrants, I did not stand up and speak out because I was not an undocumented immigrant. Then they came for me, and no one was there to stand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glazer. We appreciate your comments. Do we have any other comments, Dr. Cohn?
We do not.
All right, thank you. We're now at section 7.0 of the consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce the consent agenda?
I would be happy to. The board's consent agenda this evening includes repetitive business items. These include, for example, meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently, but are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed in new business and the remaining items are then automatically renumbered for action. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By definition, the consent agenda is not a debatable action. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding these items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published for your approval.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cohn. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Lassane. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries. Thank you. We're now at section 8.0, the superintendent report.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. And this evening, we've got a little bit of agenda highlights, a touch of good news. We've got a memoriam item, some construction updates, some news about gifts and visits. I'm hoping that you were able to catch King 5's coverage of Eisenhower Middle School student Josiah Barbieri. Every morning, regardless of the weather, Josiah bikes to school early so that he can open the door for everyone arriving on the buses. He's been awarded a Patriot Pride certificate for his kindness and selflessness, and we thought that was a nice way to start the superintendent's report. I also just wanted to note that this was a pretty extensive recognition agenda, and we very much appreciate the board members taking the time and placing these recognition items. Having, in fact, two principals nominated as Principal of the Year has been quite a year in that regard, and I have to tell you, having Michelle Nims be nominated, actually the sole nomination for president of the statewide PTA, is I think quite an honor as well. And I want to say again, I am delighted about the students coming this evening to present for you. We have a world language program update. You know that we've been working very hard on expanding world language and have laid in a plan to do that. You'll be hearing a little bit more about that this evening. I'm very much looking forward to that report. Tonight you also have an update on design for Elementary 18. We're going to talk with you about the ed specs and design process. We're going to talk with you a bit about the planning that we're doing for the capital bond that we hope to place before you for a February election. That's certainly something that is critical to you and to the students in the community, given the significant growth that we're experiencing. Tonight, we're going to spend just a couple of minutes reviewing your progress toward accomplishing your annual goals, which are a combination of the strategic priorities of the district and your objectives under the standards set by your association. Those are the two images that I have on this particular slide for you. And I want to once again thank Rose Smith for the remarkable work that she does and congratulate her on that fantastic award. We have had some fantastic Dr. Seuss birthday celebrations in the district. This is a part of how our elementary schools creatively encourage reading, and students dress up as Dr. Seuss, teachers dress up as Dr. Seuss. Sometimes students mistake the superintendent for Dr. Seuss, and that can be traumatizing when students are told that Dr. Seuss has passed away. There's a story behind that. There was a kid who thought that I'd passed away. We had to sort of correct that. We've had a tech information night and a summit, and I think at least one of you attended the summit, the tech information night for students and parents. We're working to provide a number of parents in the district an opportunity to understand the work that we're doing and sort of get in the stream of the one-to-one personal computing, integration of computing process that we're engaged in. Jeff Utek from Eduro Learning presented, and district technology staff facilitated this learning activity. They have, I think they've been very well received. The work's been very well received, and we intend to do some more of them. We received a note from Larry O'Donnell, who is the community historian, about the passing of a fellow by the name of Arnie Wiggum, a 1939 graduate of Everett High School. Arnie taught at South Junior High and Jackson Elementary. He served as well as principal at Monroe, where Girard is now, at Hawthorne, at Lowell, where Cindy is now, and at View Ridge Elementary Schools. He also served as the district's Head Start director when the program was started in 1965, when I was 10 years old. And Wiggins Hollow Park in the Hawthorne area is named after him. We wanted to just take a moment this evening to recognize his contribution to the community and the fine work that he did for students and staff in Everett Public Schools. We're going to spend a little bit of time with you on conceptual design work for elementary 18. And we wanted you to know that we've reviewed the ed specs, and I am having the dickens of a time with this. It's running around on the screen, but I can't see it on my, never mind. Dickens of a time with the mouse. It's gone to the screen and it's not on my computer, so I'm having a hard time with this. The schematic design documents for 18 have been received from the architect, and they're currently under district staff review, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that this evening. Our Everett High PTSA auction was remarkable. It I think raised $100,000, and the PTSA is donating $49,000 and $345 from the January auction to support ASB activities, athletics, student needs trust, and classroom grants. And you can see a picture of one of the auction tables, and I think Dr. Stewart has supported that work for some time, and we're very grateful for both the staff support and all the community members who are engaged in that particular activity. School visits we've been pretty busy this last month. School visits, of course, ramp up a bit when it's state of school review season. You can see the elementary school visits, and a couple of them I visited on more than one occasion. Likewise, our high schools and middle schools, and I know you're engaged in a lot of those visits as well. Community visits have also ramped up a bit over the last month, and probably will continue to be at a higher than normal level over the next few months. I want to note that we had a wonderful get-together with the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee representatives, and we are looking at implementing some programs with them beginning next year as part of the work that Dana Riley Black and the STEM and CTE team are doing on this whole notion of signature programs and concentrations of program types at our high schools. Had an opportunity to meet with our Aquasox general manager to work with them a little bit more closely on the reading rewards and awards program that they sponsor. A number of us attended the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County annual economic forecast, and we're looking for a way that one or two of the presenters can come to a future meeting and update you on the economic outlook for the area. It's always, I find it's always an excellent opportunity to meet with folks in our area and understand what's coming down the road. The Alliance also held the Legislative Advocacy Day that a few of us attended in Olympia. A number of our legislators and leaders in the legislature spent some time with the folks who were gathered down there. Had an opportunity to meet with the EDGE Foundation Chief Executive and one of his staff, looking at a way that they can support mentoring as we look at mentoring and the expansion of mentoring in the district. Had an opportunity, as is typical for us, to meet and spend some time with our Everett Community College president. And I participated in a welcome event for the United Way executive that was sponsored by the college. And I'll tell you that was one of the best community introductions that I've seen in some time. And I'm grateful for the college doing that. Excuse me. I think you all participated in the legislative conference, as did several of our students. As a result of that, we had an opportunity to meet with Governor Inslee, with Justice Susan Owens, with representatives and senators in the legislature. I've had an opportunity to spend some time with a new clergyman in our community, talking with him about how his church can work with us to support kids in the work that we're doing. I think you heard plenty about the Prodigies for Peace essay contest, and this last month, the Snow Isle superintendents, who are also in large measure the members of the Administrative Council for the Snow Isle Skills Center, met and conducted some business. Had an opportunity with David Byer to meet with the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, an opportunity to present to a Leadership for Learning cohort at the UW, as well as a summit on gifted education, and have been involved in a number of United Way and YMCA meetings across the course of the month, as you would expect, given the leadership roles that you support my participating in. What's ahead? Foundation breakfast tomorrow morning, and as if I don't get hoarse tonight, I'll be a wonderful MC for you all tomorrow. We have a special board meeting on the 14th of March. We have a regular board meeting on the 21st. And I believe all of you are attending the NSBA annual conference on the 24th through the 27th March is definitely a very busy month. That is the superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cohn. We're now at section 9.0, the strategic monitoring report, and I believe we're going to have a world language program update from Georgia Lindquist. Georgia, welcome.
Evening. Thank you once again for this opportunity to present this update on our very important world language program in Everett Public Schools. Tonight, we will be revisiting the importance of world language in order for students to be college and career ready, review the district world language program plan, provide an update on progress toward meeting program goals and plans, and discuss next steps. The work we're doing in terms of our world language program is set to address the strategic goals we have about rigorous and relevant and engaging education, and focuses particularly on the importance of our students learning to demonstrate cultural proficiency, that they will have the skills and knowledge in world languages, comparative history and culture, and be prepared to live and be productive in a global economy. The World Language Program also directly addresses key elements of our vision and mission, highlighted here in blue, including noting the global perspective, representing the diversity and worth of others, and really helping our students thrive in a global society. And these goals are directly related, as we'll be discussing tonight, about having our students be college and career ready. So they are absolutely ready to adapt to an ever-changing world with knowledge and skills in world language and cultural proficiency. Our world language program goals are to really ensure that our students are ready to effectively communicate and collaborate in a variety of fields in communities, multilingual communities, both here at home and around the world. And there will be more and more opportunities as in the 21st century for people to be collaborating across countries, and at not only in the higher education, but also in a variety of fields in terms of business, science, and many other fields. So our world language program is focusing on implementing a high-quality language program at all levels, including having a well-articulated K-12 instructional sequence so that our students are able to, by the time they exit our system, have high levels of language proficiency. We know that in many other countries, students graduate with bilingual or trilingual, and we have a way to go to catch up to that. So we're looking at providing our students with an opportunity to reach much higher levels of language proficiency before they leave us and embark on higher education or a career. We also are focusing in our program on ensuring that students have an in-depth understanding of diverse cultural perspectives, as well as the commonality of people's hopes and dreams. And with that in mind, our world language plan focuses on high-level standards set by a national organization of world language teachers and adopted by Washington State, the World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages, establishing end-of-year proficiency levels so that by each year of time in Everett Public Schools, students will have achieved a particular proficiency level. Not just that they finished Spanish 1, but they have achieved a proficiency level. Then we are looking at a variety of program models for elementary language learning, which we'll discuss a little later, and then ensuring that instructional materials we adopt align to these high and rigorous standards and provide really robust digital resources, and then instituting proficiency assessments so we can assess our goals, and then ensuring that we establish authentic contexts for integrated performance assessments in all of our language courses. This year, to get moving on this plan, we have implemented 2 new courses, the Chinese 4 and Advanced Placement German Language and Culture course. And in both of those courses, we've implemented new instructional materials. And then we also provided additional FTE to our high schools to increase the capacity for student registration in world language courses. And we are involved in an adoption process and planning for additional FTE so that we can launch Mandarin Chinese courses at both Cascade High and Jackson High starting next fall. In addition, we are getting ready to launch in the fall of 2017 an AP Spanish Literature and Culture course. It'll be new to our district, so we're going through an adoption process and course approval process for that. It's a pretty exciting course, and it introduces students to texts from Spain, Latin America, and Hispanic American literature as well, from medieval to contemporary periods. So it's a really powerful course, and the teachers are so excited to get to teach it. Also, we are continuing to offer world language proficiency assessments for our students to earn language competency credits for high school credit. We developed for the first time a district-wide world language professional learning community focused on standards and best practice. This year they're really focusing on strategies for how to make sure they use the target language 90% of the time in the classroom. And we have begun collaboration planning with Everett Community College world language staff around world languages, addressing issues and ideas related to things like proficiency and others. Also, at the middle school level, we have provided FTE to middle schools to support world language implementation there, and have offered Spanish 1 as an elective choice for our 8th grade students at all of our middle schools. And we've intentionally worked very hard on establishing a professional learning community for our middle and high school Spanish 1 teachers. They've worked together this year since August on a regular basis to really be sure they're on the same page and share strategies, assessments, and lots of curriculum portal resources, as well as have shared professional learning opportunities, focusing on high quality assessments and discussing and ensuring that they are offering their students the exact same assessments across all of the schools. And it's really been a powerful experience. We just had a meeting yesterday and people were hugging and they have really bonded and they really care about each other, and it's pretty awesome. So now with the addition of Spanish 1 at our middle school, it opens a really great opportunity that now in Everett Public Schools, we have, our students have the opportunity to have 5 full years of Spanish now. So that they're able to, by their junior year, take AP Spanish Language and Culture, and then as seniors take AP Spanish Literature and Culture. The exciting thing about this is not only are they going to get at higher levels of language learning and cultural proficiency, but they also are going to have a better opportunity to get admission into college, the college of their choice. And in some cases, for example, the University of Washington, depending on their score on the assessment, they may have credits on their college transcript before they even get there. This also offers our students the opportunity to have an additional course as part of the AP Capstone program to enable them to be able to achieve that as well. And we may even have students doing research in AP research in languages. It's an option. I want to also quickly highlight the Spanish for Heritage Speaker course that's shown there at the bottom, and very typically our heritage speakers go from either a Spanish 3 or heritage course directly into AP Spanish language, and now they'll be able to have AP Spanish literature as well. Middle school enrollment is pretty high at a lot of our schools, and the numbers at North are smaller, but that's because it's a smaller 8th grade this year, and they predict they'll have way more students taking Spanish next year. But you can see across the district really strong interest in and participation in Spanish, and those students are passing at an 88% rate, C or higher grade, compared to the high school where they're passing at 83% are passing at a C or higher grade. Also, just to highlight over the last few years, enrollment in world language courses, highlighting, of course, the opportunity that we've provided our students. You can see that high number of students now in the year one of languages. And then I know it's pretty small, but that little purple box, just to show we have 72 more students taking AP language courses this year than we did last year. So that's going in a really positive and powerful direction for our students. This is another really exciting thing to highlight, and that is that our district provides students with fall and spring opportunities to test for world language proficiency. And we offer these assessments, and since we first began offering these in spring 2014 through the first testing opportunity of this year, as you see, 349 students have taken advantage of that opportunity, and highly competent in language. We see, nearly 97% have earned at least one credit or more, for a total of 1,073 high school credits that these students have earned. So it's very powerful. And the 25 different languages we're ranging from regular, the kinds of languages we teach, like Spanish, all the way through to Kiswahili and lots of other, Ziguli, and many other really different languages. This is also pretty powerful to see that our low-income students are earning an incredible number of credits and coming to the table with really high levels of proficiency. And in a study done of the roadmap districts south of Seattle, funded by the Gates Foundation, students reported that they had a much stronger and more powerful sense of themselves and the worth of their own cultural heritage that they were bringing. So it's an incredibly positive experience beyond earning high school credits. Also, to see that when students earn 4 competency credits, which you can earn with our world language assessment or on an AP exam, if you earn a 3 or higher, you can see that as of this point, we've had over the last year and a half 134 students who were eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy, earning, because they've earned 4 credits on the language proficiency exams, and they're meeting the ELA requirement for graduation, 4 credits of English plus a passing score on the SBA, so showing that they have more than one language. So also we've implemented this year a world language experience for our kindergartners, because all full-day schools that receive state funding are required to provide experiences for students in world language other than English. So you'll see here the student pointing to a word that is hello. These charts are provided to all of our full-day kindergarten programs, and students learn how to say hello in different languages and have lots of really fun experiences. And this is just a really great example.
Remember, it's adios and manana for tomorrow. Okay, here we go. We are leaving, adios, adios. See you all mañana, see you all mañana, adios, adios.
Those are some of our Silver Lake kindergartners. Looking ahead, in terms of next steps, we will be implementing the AP Spanish Literature and Culture courses and the Mandarin Chinese programs next year. If the budget offers us this opportunity, we'll be undergoing an instructional materials adoption process for all of our secondary world language courses. And also next year, with that same group of teachers, establishing levels of proficiency for each of our courses. And then the following year, select language proficiency assessments for each of our world language courses. Next steps for world language program development also at the elementary level include research and planning for what our elementary program model and middle school continuation model will be. And with that, we're going to be looking at the elementary model we choose, and then based on that, what that will look like at the middle school level when we talk about a continuation model. So the options we have that we will be investigating over the next couple of years is providing our students with a flex foreign language experience program, much like the kindergarteners in our district have this year, which is to help them learn some basic words, learn listening skills, and cultural and linguistic awareness. Another option for us would be the foreign language in the elementary school FLES model, which is what Mercer Island School District adopted this school year, so that in all K-5 schools on Mercer Island, students have this opportunity that 75 to 90 minutes a week, several times a week, they acquire specific proficiency in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, have an understanding of other cultures, learn about other cultures, and can use subject area content in that other language. So that's another option to have a FLES model. And another model, and Bellevue is an example of that. They have 4 K-5 immersion schools. In these schools, students learn content taught in a new language. They become proficient, once again, in listening, speaking, reading, and writing, understand and appreciation of other cultures, but 50 to 100% of the day is spent in the new language. In Bellevue, it's 50%. It's a dual language model where there are English and Spanish speakers in 3 of the schools, and Mandarin, Chinese, and English speakers in the 4th school. The full immersion would be everybody's learning a new language, and the language, their students are learning content in that language. So those are the program models that we're going to be exploring, researching, considering as we look ahead to possibly being able to get an elementary program going in Everett Public Schools. So over the next few years, explore those, and then by 2018-19, make a recommendation followed by an adoption process, and then beginning implementation the following year. All of this, once again, depends on budget and other district priorities. In this program update, we revisited the importance of world language in order for students to be college and career ready, reviewed the district world language program plan, we provided an update on progress toward meeting those goals and plans, and discussed next steps. So I'd invite your questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Georgia. You know, it's exciting to see the expansion of world language. Certainly as a board, when we think about even what seems like a very small conversation right now about moving Spanish into the middle schools, and now we're talking Mandarin and we're talking elementary school. It's fantastic to see. Any questions for Georgia?
I had a question. Going forward, as we look at language programs, what is the district vision, or how do we determine which languages to choose? And is there sort of a standard in our state or nationally? When I look at the high school course offerings, they're a little bit different at every school. And I'm just curious how you go about not only the program, but the actual languages that we choose.
So now with the addition of Mandarin at Cascade and Jackson, we're on board across all the schools except for German, which is not being offered at Everett. So we wanted to expand Mandarin Chinese. It's a really essential language in the world of today. And as far as other languages, there's consideration of adding an opportunity for students in collaboration with Everett Community College to have an opportunity to take Russian. But this larger question that you're asking is a really important one. There is no standard, there's no set list of languages. For example, Seattle schools, many of their high schools are offering Latin once again, and there's huge demand for that. And you know, what we need to do as part of the ongoing study and build into our plan is for us to do the thoughtful look at the languages that we offer and the reasons for offering them. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Yes, when we start talking about bringing in an additional FTE for Mandarin Chinese at Cascade and Jackson, what does that look like? Does it mean getting another teacher from China in that sense, or 2 other teachers from China? And what agencies do we work with in order to bring in foreign teachers to teach?
We are right now considering hiring someone who is certified in the state of Washington, who would be able to be with us over a longer period of time. And the person we would be looking at for next year would teach 2 intro courses at both high schools and then be able to travel between them. So that person would be a full-time position for that teacher to have an effective launch to this program.
Is it rather difficult to continue the partnership with foreign teachers, or is there a time limit on how long they stay?
Yes, there is a time limit, but we've been really fortunate with the teacher we have at this time, and she's going to be able to come back next year. And she is, we have the benefit of her expertise and her whole experience in mainland China through the College Board. We've also worked with the Confucius Institute, and there's also an option for us to get an additional teacher through the Confucius Institute to support both the new teacher we will be hiring and our current teacher, just to have an additional person. They're very generous with that
That's
opportunity.
wonderful. I'm very grateful for the common assessments between Spanish 1 at the middle school and the high school. The big concern I had was ensuring that the college credit and the high school credit in middle school was reflected against all the schools that, and the high schools. And there was a seamless transition from Spanish 1 to Spanish 2 when they go into high school. So that's very good that they are working together. Thank you.
Yes, well, we started in a year ago spring and brought all Spanish 1 teachers in the district together and clarified what was expected and what everybody agreed to do so that across all the schools, we would have students ready for Spanish 2.
Very good, very good. One more, Mr. President, if I may. I had the great opportunity to sit in on a parent-student breakfast meeting at Silver Lake. And I understand at Silver Lake, they have, by reaction from the students, they have decided they're going to have a Spanish club. So they have a Spanish club that is being taught by our natural leaders, several natural leaders, in fact, 6. And they got more than 180 students with a desire to learn Spanish after school for 50 minutes a week. And they have the natural leaders coming in to teach them Spanish. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's really, really awesome.
I have more of a comment than rather a question. As a heritage speaker, I took the proficiency test and I got put into Spanish 3 and then I took AP Spanish my junior year. And I'm really happy to hear that you're going to put AP Spanish literature, because I know a lot of students in my grade who are seniors now were looking for a class like that, because for some of us, although we do speak Spanish at home, I don't write it and I don't read it constantly. So, for accents is one thing. I don't know how to use them still, but it's just amazing to see that we will still have more chances to sort of improve in our Spanish and then everyone else's Spanish as well. So thank you for that.
That's great.
Any other questions for Georgia? Great questions. Thank you. Great comments. Thank you, Georgia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Gunn, we're going to be seeing a lot of you tonight. We're at section 10.0, and this is the new elementary school number 18 educational specifications and schematic design. And I would remind the board members that there was a whole slide set of other renderings that are not going to be a part of this presentation, but were embedded in our stuff. So.
Thank you for that comment. Yes, there is the presentation tonight, and then there are some additional site plans in a second PowerPoint, PDF document attached to board docs. So tonight, I will be covering with you the educational specifications and the schematic design documents for elementary school number 18. Helping me out will be Darcy Walker from our construction department, Kelly Smith with the Dyckman Architects, Gerard Holtzman, who you saw earlier this evening, and then Barb Dubin from Garfield Elementary School, staff member there. And they will be presenting various portions of this presentation as well. So the educational specifications are a written blueprint for the design. Basically, they're a written narrative of what the architects will be provided. And then the schematic design is really the first of two of the primary design phases of a project. So what you have are the ed specs and the schematic design. Following these will be the design development drawings and then the contract drawings, which will take about the next year or so. And then, so in just about that amount of time, we'll be getting ready to put the project out to bid and then get started on the construction. I just also wanted to remind you that on April 11th, the same kind of a presentation on North Middle School will be presented to you, the educational specifications for North Middle School as well as the schematic design. We always show the annual operating plan links to connect this presentation with your strategic plan. The outline of the presentation tonight is first the educational specifications, what it is, who has been involved, and what did the process look like. And then Darcy Walker will be presenting that part of it. The schematic design documents, that will be Kelly Smith going over the site plan and the floor plans and the exterior and interior renderings. And then I will ask Gerard and Barb to step up for a few minutes, and then I'll cover the next steps. I did want to emphasize that we, in terms of, we're going to be presenting some information about costs and some other things tonight. I did want to emphasize that we're early in the process. There's a lot of work left to do, and so we'll cover that with you when we get there. All right, and with that, I would like to ask Darcy Walker to step up to the podium.
Thank you. As Mike said, the educational specifications are a written document that provides detailed descriptions of the educational program, the instructional activities, functional, spatial, aesthetic, and environmental needs of the school. Educational specifications are describe the instructional and subject methods of the school, the instructional and non-instructional activities that will be housed within the proposed facility, the spatial relationships between the facility and the site, interrelationships of instructional activities with each other and with non-instructional activities. It describes the major items of furniture and equipment to be used at the site. It describes special environmental provisions which would improve the learning environments and promote staff efficiencies. And it should include future needs and flexibility requirements. It's important to understand that the educational specifications contain the design requirements. It is the responsibility of the project architect and the design team to produce the building and site designs that are responsive to the requirements of the educational specifications. So to say that another way, we like to say in our department, instruction drives construction. So with that, who participated? We had 26 regular
members of the EdSpec committee. To name a few, we had principals on this committee. We had general education teachers. We had a librarian, music teachers, members of the STEM administration, special services administration, special service teachers. We had early learning administrators on this team. We included a custodian and, of course, members of the architectural team. In addition, we had what we referred to as round robin meetings. So these were held one-on-one with our EdSpec facilitators, which was Kelly Smith from Dykeman Architects. So we talked with various department heads to glean ideas of their needs for this facility as well. So we talked with food service, transportation, maintenance and operations, community services, again, some STEM folks, early learning, and then again, several members, general members of the EdSpec committee as well. We also held a workshop early on this process where we met with the elementary principals and that leadership group and brought their information into this fold as well. This took roughly 2.5 to 3 months. So it was a great group. I got to say, I've been here 11 years. This was one, and been through many EdSpecs, and this was a really, really good group. A lot of excitement. It was a good, fun group to be around. Let's see, who else here? So from the educational specification program, the group came up with several guiding principles that pertain to this new facility, new Elementary 18, and they also came up with a mission statement. Some of the highlights, though, of the guiding principles, one of the things that always kept coming up was natural learning, natural light to create learning and wellness in the facility. Access to nature was critical to this group. And along with the community, the school community being accessible, inclusive, and welcoming to all. So some of the highlights. So the facility is roughly 70,000 square feet on 2 floors. It'll serve 550 students, approximately 30 classrooms. We're going to, the site is much larger than this, but we're developing 11 acres of it for the elementary. We will have extended learning areas that will connect to nature and a lot of natural light. And we're looking to ensure that we have flexibility in our teaching spaces. We also visited, before I go into this slide, I should back up. We also took the group on a tour. We went through 3 schools to try and get them thinking out of the box. We went and visited Monroe Elementary School, which was one of our latest schools. We visited Riverview Elementary in Snohomish and Cherry Crest in Bellevue. And again, just to try and get the creative juices flowing and see what some other facilities have to offer. Some of the other, as you can see on this slide, some of the things we had, some of the teachers that were involved in the EdSpec committee involved their students in it as well. So we got their input and ideas from it as well. It was a kind of fun feature. And as you've probably seen, this is the site. So we have 180th Street here. Our property extends, this piece we bought about 8 years ago, and it's roughly just under 30 acres. We just recently purchased this piece. It extends out to 174th. These other pieces here when we purchase those, will give us just under 45 acres of usable land. And as you'll see here shortly, this is the area that we're currently going to develop for the new elementary school. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mike.
May I ask one question just to get my understanding of where this is? The street, on the bottom part of your aerial photo, there's a street down there. What street is that?
Oh, is it 46th? Yeah, 46th. Yes, yeah.
If you know where Hyde Park is just south, just to the bottom of that. Okay. All right.
I have to go out there.
All right. So now I'm going to ask Kelly Smith with the Dykeman Architects to join me. And while she's coming up here, then I'll mention 2 other things. If you haven't taken the time to look through some of the students' comments in the EdSpecs, you really should. They're really, really great comments. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was Actually, I just forgot what I was going to mention. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, you'll think of it.
Yeah, well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Well, I'm really glad to be here to talk to you about this exciting project and to let you know how much, wrong way. Let you know how much we enjoy working with you and the great team in facilities and planning. So this is the conceptual site plan. And just to orient you, similar to the aerial, the 180th Street is right here and north is to the right. So this is the elementary school site that we're currently developing, and it is bisected by a private drive. This is the high school site down below that will be developed later on. So some key features on the site are this rather large wetland area. We're required to protect that. But it's really a great learning opportunity for students as well. It'll be developed with paths through it. It'll have a split rail fence around it so students can go out there and do some STEM education and learning out there. The school building itself is located right here. And so you can see 2 classroom wings extending out to the west with a courtyard. And then these are some common areas we'll go into in a little bit. We have a play field area here. We have an area reserved for a future classroom addition. We have bus loading along the east side of the building here near the covered play that provides a good queuing spot for students. And then we have good separation of parent drop-off and bus in that we have our queuing along this side here of the building, and then parking in this area. Now, let's see which way, wrong way. So starting with the first floor plan, we have our 2 classroom wings, as I mentioned earlier, and then we have all of the common spaces located here. One reason we do that is we're able to zone the building for after-hours community use. So the main entrance during the day will be through here, and then there's a secondary entrance here that can be used after hours for access to the gym, the cafeteria, the library. So as you enter the building, you'll arrive first at administration. And then continuing on, we have the library, and we have what's called the Idea Lab. And so in other elementary schools, this has been the multipurpose room traditionally. And but this EdSpec committee came up with the idea of calling it an Idea Lab, which we thought was really great. So it's been renamed. And then this is the gym, and then we have the cafeteria and the stage. Kitchen is back here. And then as we move into the classroom wings, this is the kindergarten pod here. The green are general education classrooms, and then the same on this side. And you'll see that the classrooms are grouped around this blue space here, which are breakout spaces. So the idea is that kids from those classrooms can come into these breakout areas and work in small group sessions, one-on-one, with good access from all of the classrooms. So it gives just another kind of collaborative learning opportunity for students. And then moving to the second floor, we have primarily classrooms up here. So again, the green are general education classrooms. The blue are special ed classrooms. These are specialists, so EL, SLP, OTPT are located here. And then this is the faculty lounge. I'll get it right one of these days. So now we're going to move to the exterior renderings to give you a sense for what the building will look like. So this is the main entrance right here. And so we're looking at the library and the Idea Lab here, and then the classroom wings down here. What we're looking at for materials is a combination of brick masonry and metal siding. You can see this canopy here is a covered play area for the kindergartners, which works really nicely for parent pickup. They can actually just leave directly from their classrooms into this covered play area and wait to be picked up by their parents. And then you're seeing the wetland in the foreground. So it was really great that we actually had the opportunity with the site to achieve some of what the EdSpec committee, expressed, and that, with this connection to nature. this is looking from the other side. We're looking at that courtyard area. So looking straight back this way towards that common space, the gym and cafeteria space. This is where a breakout area would be in these little pocketed areas here. And another, great opportunities for outdoor education here in the courtyard as well. So this is the bus drop-off zone right here. And this is the after-hours entry. So you're looking at the gym here and the Idea Lab here. So as we move into the building, we're coming in through that after-hours entrance now. And so on the right, you're seeing first the gym and then the cafeteria here, Cafeteria Commons. And you're looking straight out to that courtyard again. So again, just really emphasizing that connection to nature. So wherever you are in the building, you're having a view of nature. And then we've started to look at developing a kind of a community gathering space for the school. So these are kind of amphitheater style seats where you could bring a class or two out and have presentations or a class meeting. And then upstairs, this is a view of, this is a view of one of the breakout spaces on the upper level. So you can see that the classrooms all have a lot of glazing and good visual access to that space. So the teacher can always see who's out in those breakout spaces and what they're up to. This is a breakout space on the lower level. And again, you're seeing out to that courtyard there. And we're on the second floor again here, looking down onto that community gathering space, the amphitheater style seating. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I did remember what I was trying to, I was going to mention that we hired Kelly and her team to prepare the educational specifications for this project as well as the North Middle School project. So in April, when we invite the architects for North Middle to come and do this kind of presentation, we'll probably also have Kelly back to be here for her part in doing the educational specifications for North. So with that, I'll ask Gerard and Barb to come up. Go ahead and just take a few. I'm always really interested in having the people that are involved in these kinds of processes to share a little bit of their experiences with you. So that's what I've asked them to do. Go ahead. Sure.
So I think, hi.
We're awake.
I think the exciting thing of being on the EdSpec committee and that the group that was brought together, as Darcy mentioned, really was from various employment opportunities in the district coming together, but was also visioning together what education will look like 30 years from now, and trying to create a building now from a mindset that we have of what we do in school, but to break out of that saying, what will technology, community, 21st century skills look like, and how to create the specs for a building that will accommodate 40 years from now rather than right now. And that was the exciting part. And then during that phase, I had the opportunity to begin to say goodbye to my 17 years at Monroe as I was appointed the planning principal for the new elementary school, which I'll start in July. So thank you for that opportunity. Barb?
So I want to thank Joyce for inviting me to the committee because I had never been a part of anything like this before, although I have to say, I've worked with Kelly before when the remodel for Garfield was 10 years ago, and I thought we were still pretty cutting edge. But things have changed quite a bit as I get out to see the different schools and to see what was going on. And I have to thank Kelly and the whole committee about basically taking the lid off of constraints. What is your dream school? And then we went back and talked to different representatives. So I'm the counselor, so I'm always very interested in process and how the process works. And we got information from other elementary school like job alikes and brought that into the committee with crazy ideas, but there was no limit. And that, I think, added to the spark that people were talking about in the committee because we were free. to envision what a school would be like in 30 or so years. And then we got to go out and see some schools that were newer, especially Riverview and Snohomish, because the things that we were appreciating, like the natural light, accessibility to wetlands, so that you don't have to schedule a field trip to go to, to go for a science experiment. And that was it just brought it all together. And it was so exciting, and it really was a shot in the arm, I think, for a lot of the people that were part of the experience. So I want to thank you for that opportunity. And I'm so excited to see it in drawing now. It's fantastic.
All right, thank you, Barb and Gerard. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit about how we align the project design to the budget. And first, I'd like to go down to the final 3 bullets on the slide and mention that in any construction project, there are the three primary variables are cost, quality, and scope. And what I tell people is that you can hold 2 of those constant and let the third one be variable, but you can't hold all 3 of them constant and expect to be successful. So I'm using that as kind of the lead-in to the reality that right now in our cost estimates for the project, we're over budget by about $5 million. And it's, before you get too concerned about that, I wanted to say that it's not uncommon, in fact, it's very common, that at this point in a project that the architect's estimates are somewhat over the budget, because what we're really trying to do is to maximize what we get for the money that we're spending. And so we're really testing the design assumptions, and we're testing the cost estimates, the quality of the project, and the scope. So as you can imagine, we're really trying to stay with the scope that we've established. In other words, 550 students, about 70,000 square feet, a building area on 11 acres with about 30 classrooms, because that's really kind of the scope. The quality is that we try to maintain a fairly high quality building so that we will have over time lower maintenance costs, lower general fund obligations, and the building will be worth modernizing in 40 years or so. So that leaves the cost as the typical variable that really swings. So we have a lot of work to do. We do, the architects do cost estimates at 3 different times during the design process. And this is the first one, full-fledged cost estimate. The next one will be at the completion of the design development stage, and then they will do one again just before we go out to bid, when the construction documents are ready to go out to bid. So we'll keep you updated on that. We have where it says costs are rising due to ... It really kind of describes what we're experiencing right now, and that is that the market is saturated, the construction market. Everyone is busy. Contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, vendors, designers, they're all really busy, and that means the price goes up, and they're pickier about what they bid on. And things take longer to get the materials that you've ordered. The next big thing is the changes to the Washington State Energy Code after we had priced out the costs for, the cost estimates for the bond. We did some more checking on when that actual date was, and I think it was actually in July of 2016 that it was changed. So it was still after the bond had been passed. That change in the energy code, we believe, added about $750,000 to the cost for this school, $6 to $8 per square feet. Has pretty far-reaching implications for anyone that's doing work out there. There's also increases in the code requirements for stormwater detention. Those, it seems, are always going up and costing more. And then with the high school site right next door, we're proceeding right away with the design for that. So it's becoming clear that there are some components of that future high school that would make more sense to build now instead of waiting until the high school is built later. Some examples of that have to do with the through street, the road that goes through the property. If we were not going to build the high school, it's likely we would not have to do the full street through the site. also some off-site improvements, like street improvements out in the public right-of-way. And then there's also, at this point, we are likely looking at a overflow parking lot for the high school on the elementary school side. We may well go ahead and build that now. So I just wanted to cover that with you. And then this is our next to final slide, and it shows the upcoming project milestones. You can just kind of walk your way through it. We will be doing a couple of studies along the way to help us make sure that we're making good decisions about what we're spending money on. The value engineering and the constructability review are the two that I'm thinking of. By the way, these dates here represent the end date of some of those activities. So it says permitting in February of 18. That's when we expect to get the permits for the site. I will say right now it is our anticipation that we would be done earlier than some of these dates. I just don't want that to be a full-fledged expectation because, you never know how long it'll take to do the permits. I think you might have seen in the paper recently about a delay on some other local school projects, and we try not to be delayed like that. And so with that, again, we have covered the educational specifications this evening, as well as the schematic design documents, and talked about the costs and what we're doing to manage those and the next steps in the process.
Right. Very exciting. Thank you for the presentation. Directors, any questions?
All right. Okay, that was very exciting. Those are fun pictures. So when I was thinking, when Kelly was going over the different layout, I'm assuming that computer labs are a thing of the past? Is that correct in our new elementary school?
I'm going to invite Kelly up.
And then I was trying to remember, it's been a few years since elementary school, but the different specialists that the kids go to every day. And music was another one that came to mind. And I was wondering where that space lives as well in that plan. And then there's PE and, am I missing one? Art's done in the classroom, right?
Yeah. So you're correct about computer labs. So through a process of working with the Ed Spec Committee, working with technology, we've arrived at the decision as a group that it's just really not necessary anymore. And
Right.
with moving to one-to-one,
Yeah.
Computer skills are not just taught in one room in one place.
Right.
They're happening throughout the school. So yes, that is correct. There will not be a dedicated computer lab in this school. So music will be, as you probably know, it is currently typically taught on the stage at the elementary schools. And so that's where it will continue to be taught here at this school as well, with the operable partition here that opens onto the cafeteria for larger performances.
And has that, I'm just curious, I've heard that creates such conflict when you have a whole music program set up on a stage and then you need your stage for other things at night and venues and things like that. Is that pretty typical in elementary schools? I know we've done it in some of ours, but.
It is pretty typical, yeah, and in other districts as well.
Okay.
I think some of that is just spaces at such a premium, and as Mike mentioned with, budgets the way they are, we look for as much flexible space as we can and flexible use of space or multi-use of space. And so that is a pretty typical place to instruct kids in music.
Okay. And this is kind of a silly question, but I love the connection to nature. When I look at the property, it's heavily treed right now. Do you make efforts to save some big trees as you go through versus clearing? And how does that work? Or is that costly to do or dangerous to do for windstorms or?
Well, there are different, am I going right now? There are different considerations. Trying to get to the site plan. There we go. So, right off the bat, we have this big wetland area. And so we cannot remove any trees in that area. So that's untouchable. So that's going to stay all native, little
That's
forest,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
So that'll be great.
Yeah.
So we do try to save trees along, we've got landscape buffers along here, and so we will just keep that native planting and then augment it with some additional landscaping. Further into the site, the reality is we do have to remove quite a lot of the trees. I mean, part of it is just to allow for construction activities. The other thing is we have to be really careful. We certainly would never want to create a situation where we had a danger tree or that sort of thing. So we have to be careful about where the trees are remaining. So yes, I would say the perimeter and then the wetland are going to be primarily natural.
Right. Well, I love the use of glass, and I read in an article in the Herald, I don't know if you guys saw it, but how they were saying, isn't that distracting to all the students? And the response was, not if they're engaged in the classroom.
Right, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate Kelly's answer on the trees. I have instructed her that any trees that remain around the building, we need to take them out. And the reason is my experience over time is that around the building area, they get in the way of the contractors, and they're ultimately going to be removed. If we don't plan on that happening during the earthwork phase of the project, we'll pay at least a couple $1,000s per tree to take them down using special equipment when it happens.
Right.
So.
I have a couple questions regarding the safety and security provisions that you've built in that we're right now retrofitting some of our elementary schools with entrances into, and I see you have a courtyard. Have those been considered and already planned for the same type of security precautions in elementary 18?
Yes, the safety and security standards that we have come up with for our safety and security upgrades projects will be incorporated into this school. Okay. As you probably remember, we're doing phase 1 of the safety and security upgrades this summer. So we're doing the first 9 schools this summer. And this won't happen for another year, so we'll be easily able to incorporate those standards into this building.
With the one-to-one consideration for technology, a lot of parents will probably be bringing their own computers and things to schools for back-to-school nights and whatever kind of events that bring them to campus. My concern is that sometimes you go into some buildings, not the CRC, where there's inadequate number of electrical outlets and USB ports to charge up and connect up to. Is that going to be a consideration for parents bringing so they can utilize technology in the building while they're there as well, i.e. in the parent support office or anything to that nature?
I'm not sure that we have thought through that part of the design up to this point. I'm going to look back and say that I do know that our students are going to have a lot of the wireless devices. So you can imagine a whole school full of kids. You should be able to accommodate the parents that come in, usually probably not during the school day. So if they're there after hours, I'm sure that the capacity in the Wi-Fi system would be there.
I'm not just looking at Wi-Fi, but, power outlets, because if you're going to be using your computers, you go into the airport now, and every time you walk 10 feet, you have a power station,
That's right. I think that we'll...
If I can
Sure.
jump in here, I think what
Please.
we're anticipating is over time, as we move forward, we're probably going to see less and less wired copper outlets for the students to plug their laptops into the data port. We'll see less and less data and more power.
The evolving needs for internet connections and power are interesting. Many years ago, I thought we would end up with batteries and Wi-Fi and not need any hardwire at all, and that's not turned out to be true because you need to charge up the batteries, and you get a lot better signal with wired connections for the internet. We're even looking at the question of what kind of provisions should we be providing for electric vehicles out in the parking lot. And we've found some research, and we're passing that on. I think we've already passed it on to the design teams for our projects.
One last question I have for the play lawn. Are we considering natural play lawn or are we?
Grass, natural
Okay.
grass. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Mine are just more comments, and I'll make them brief because we're going to run short on time here. Gerard, I like the way that you phrased the question, what will technology and education look like in 30 years? And I think, as the presentation was going on, and I appreciate the renderings being up on the website and the presentation being on the website, I think we have a story to tell that I'm not sure that what's up on the website yet shares the full story. So, Kelly, for example, when you were talking about the different spaces and why we're doing the different spaces, I think we should add that to the renderings to kind of tell the story of why we're arranging the school the way we're arranging it. I heard some things just in your descriptors of the spaces that were really helpful to me of, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so I think there's an opportunity there that as we put these renderings out there for the public to see, and I know as a board we certainly have been driving to get stuff out, we want to share the story of the why. It isn't just about the educational specs, because that can be kind of dry to Joe Public, but it's also the opportunity to tell the why of why we're arranging it, because what does technology and education look like in 30, 40, 50 years from now? So I just think that is an opportunity, but it's exciting stuff. Congratulations. It's very exciting to see this come out of the ground, and we look forward to hearing more. So with that, we are going to recess. We are running behind time, so we had set aside, sorry if I alarmed anyone with that. We're now at section 10.02, future capital bond planning, and we've set aside 20 minutes for presentation and 10 minutes for Q&A. Mr. Gunn.
All right, so as you just mentioned, this is a presentation on the future capital bond planning. We are really targeting the timeline of being ready to have you place a measure on the ballot in February of 2018. But because you haven't made that decision yet, and there's a lot of discussion left before you will make that decision, we're going to try to use the phrase future capital bond planning. An outline of this presentation is, first we're going to cover what is coming up over the next 2 months that you will be involved in relating to the future capital bond planning. We will be sharing with you the criteria, suggested criteria from the Capital Facilities Advisory Council, plus what the Cabinet had to add to that. There are suggestions for the criteria that you use for making decisions about a future bond. We will also share with you the timing for a possible future capital bond election, and then the Cabinet's advice about which of those 4 possible times in the year that you would want to run it. Also talk about the size and scope of a future capital bond. Again, we'll share advice, feedback from the CFAC, Capital Facilities Advisory Council, and the Cabinet on those. And then we will go through some preliminary site plans, costs, and schedules. This is, we have included here, I think, about 6 or 7 site plans. There's another presentation attached to this agenda item that has 10 or 12 more site plans. And we can go through any of those if you'd like, but we just plan to do this first presentation. So the upcoming board agenda items tonight is the future capital bond planning and elementary 18 ed specs and schematic design review. March 21, we will be providing an update on safety and security. This is more than just a facilities update. This has to do with a lot of other aspects of our operations related to providing safe and secure environments for our kids. March 30th at Jackson High School, we'll be putting on a work session for you and the community to explore high school capacities and enrollments, and we'll be covering enrollments K-12 long-term as well as the high school focus in the South End. And then we'll be talking at that work session about some of the options we have for how to deal with the growth at the high school level. On April 11th, as I mentioned in the prior presentation, we'll be covering the North Middle School educational specifications and schematic design. So that's really the next 2 months or so. There's quite a bit of time after the next 2 months before the decision point in November around a February capital bond. So the first item we're going to cover is what is important to consider when making decisions about a future capital bond. What we did in January is we looked at the advice that was provided to you for the 2016 bond and levy from the Capital Facilities Advisory Council. We showed that to them and then had them come up with a new set of criteria that they would suggest that you use. And so what you're seeing is what is up there on the screen. I would say certainly they wanted you to reconsider anything that wasn't included in the 2016 issues. Safety, culture, climate, and environment, and opportunities for students is important. They suggested keeping the bond simple and the messaging simple. And then also, in particular, look at the program changes that may not be evident if you talk about a building, because the building may not be worn out, but it may not be appropriate for the programs that we want to offer. Okay, then the second slide from the Capital Facilities Advisory Council. The first one is really kind of around the conversation of Longfellow, and that is be mindful of when it costs too much to maintain a building or upgrade it. Students' perceptions are really important, especially Jackson High School students. We talked a lot about their perceptions. Be very clear to the voters about what's included and what's not. Build interest across the district for the plans that we're making, and then also to consider community use. So that was the CFAC's advice. We have this one slide here from the cabinet. Later in January, we showed the cabinet what the Capital Facilities Advisory Council had come up with, and this was the cabinet's additions to that work. And I would say it's not only just additions, some of it is stressing the message, and that is to, on the first bullet, to keep it simple. That's what I would say. The first and second bullet, limit to a few simple projects, messages, basic needs, 21st century skills, early learning, build high quality and maintainable schools, and upgrade infrastructure. So that was the cabinet's advice. We'll see how some of this advice translates to specific recommendations here in a little bit. Okay, so the next big item we wanted to cover tonight was that we have 4 possible election dates, and I'm sure you have good memories of this from prior discussions over the last couple of years. We could run an election in February, April, August, or November. For many reasons, our typical choice has been in February, and that is also the cabinet's recommendation, that if you're going to run a bond in 2018, that you run it in February. One of the reasons, one of the big reasons is that is the best time in terms of planning for our budget for that year. Not only capital budget, but in particular the general fund budget. That is the same election this year, or in 2018, where we will run our educational programs and operations levy. So we're already going to run, very likely, I won't predetermine that for you, but it's almost a certainty, we're going to want to run regular levy, general fund levy in February. So you would probably want to run a bond at the same time because you save money in the election costs. That's a big reason. There are other reasons why, but that's a strong recommendation from Cabinet that if you're going to run in 17, you run in February. All right. So this is a schedule that you've seen before, and it's a possible February of 2018 bond schedule. As usual, we show where we are with the star. And we started over here, and it just kind of keeps going across the horizon. You can see that we have a good 6 or 7 or 8 months left between now and November when that decision needs to be finalized. And coming up soon is the thought exchange process that And I'm sure Leanna Albrecht will give you updates on that over time. So this slide here is one that you have seen before, and it's a reminder that when we put together the tax rate projections for the 2016 bond and levy, we assumed at that point that in 2018 we would have a bond of about $250 million in order to, that we made those assumptions to plan for a flat or stable tax rate over time. We also planned over the next 20 or 30 years, every 4 years or so, to be running and passing bonds and levies. So, in other words, the stable tax rate scenario will be achievable if we have a bond that passes of about $250 million in 2018. If we either don't run a bond or it doesn't pass in 2018, what we will be faced with is that the tax rates will drop because we don't have a bond that will be driving those tax rates in an upward, to help keep it a stable tax rate over time. So if we don't pass or run a bond in 18, the tax rates will drop. So that when we do subsequently run a bond, it will be an increase in the tax rates. And if you have more in-depth questions, I'm sure Jeff can explain all this, because this is a slide that he developed for us. I think I did a pretty good job on this. So, all right. So cabinet advice is that you consider running a bond of the amount necessary to maintain a stable tax rate, or about $250 million. All right. So then we asked the cabinet, and we asked the CFAC before that, what projects should be considered for a bond in 18? And so here's the first bullet is really the simplest message right there. 2 projects that should be for sure included in a bond in 2018. A new high school, new comprehensive high school number 4, as well as the Everett High School cafeteria modernization. There are a lot of other projects for consideration, and we'll cover those in the next 4 or 5 slides, but this list right here is kind of the short list from the cabinet's conversation on January 27. So they said for sure do the first 2 in the first bullet, and then consider seriously the others. So let me jump ahead just a little bit and say that if you look at the cost for the new comprehensive high school, as well as the Everett High School cafeteria modernization, together, we believe they're going to add up right now to about $210 million, leaving us about $40 million to select any other projects to fit into. So in other words, if you go with $250 million, those 2 first projects are 210, you have 40 million left. So as we go forward through the next 4 or 5 slides, think about this. You have $40 million to spend, and I'll show you the shopping list that you could consider. And we can always...
Remember that once upon a time we had this conversation about there's $800 million of need, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so new comprehensive high school, there's 189, so that's already covered in that 210. The others are not. New elementary, number 19. K-3 class size reduction classrooms, 48 classrooms for $46 million. You see that's about $1 million a piece. Just general terms, full project cost, it's about $1 million per permanent classroom. So we can always scale that back and to 40 classrooms and for about $40 million and fit within that. Early Learning Center, you may remember from prior board meetings and presentations that we looked seriously at the costs and the need and the opportunity for regional early learning centers. We had proposed basically, I think, 3 throughout the district. Each one of those would be about $20 million, and that's if we already own the property. So that's just the building and the project costs without property. South End Bus Facility includes property for about $5 million. It would help us locate in the South End about 20 to 30 buses that will help us relieve the congestion at our central bus facility that frees up space elsewhere. Okay, so this is the big list of modernizations and replacements. I won't go through each one in turn, except to say that the first one, the $21 million, is the one that's on the cabinet recommendation that you do put on a bond, along with the new high school number 4. So you can look at all the other ones. You see a general theme going through this of STEM projects at Cascade and Everett High Schools. The final 3 bullets are new and lieu replacements of elementary schools, and then some other projects in between. This slide here shows site improvements at a variety of locations. I know the first one is well, they're all really important, but I have a special thought about Jefferson, about expanding that parking lot. It was very clear to me after we finished that project that the parking lot is just too small for that site. So I'm looking forward to expanding it at some point. You can see some athletic upgrades in that list. And then more HVAC and technology. Even after passing a bond and levy in 2016, we still have needs that are unmet. So in the cabinet conversation in particular, they really talked about this. You can see that the technology costs are expressed as a range, and what I will do is say that I've had conversations with Brian Beckley, and I think Brian is back there. I'll kind of speak for him right now and say that he's planning to do some more exploration of the scope and the costs for the technology that ultimately he may want to recommend be included on a future bond. So at this point, we're thinking it's probably somewhere between 10 and 24 million. And so I guess it just illustrates that not only technology, but heating systems are really important to the district, and they're always need for that work. Okay, so now I'm going to start going through some site plans. This is very much in line, this slide, with what you saw in the prior presentation. Here's the elementary school with the wetland, the through street, and the play area for the elementary. This building here represents a anticipated preliminary design for a future high school, comprehensive high school number 4, with associated parking areas, and of course you can recognize the fields. And these two buildings together really represent or drive the need for a through connection here to 174th. And as you can see, this build out would require acquisition of the remaining properties in this area. This project, this high school, we've developed a schedule for it. And the reason we did this, we've always known it took about 4 years to design and build a new high school. Actually takes longer now, primarily because of the permitting timelines. So we were worried that if we passed a bond in February of 18, we might not open 4 years later, and that turned out to be right from our analysis. So in order to stay on that timeline, we really need to plan to start the ed specs and what we call the visioning process right after school starts this coming fall. So in September, it would help us get about 6 months jump between there and February. So with that 6 months of extra time on the schedule, we believe we can open 4 years after passing a bond in February of 18. All right, so now I'm going to hit some of the other projects. The red areas on these site plans show the portions of the buildings that we have listed potential projects at. So this is the cafeteria area of Everett High School, the vocational building, and then the science building. At Cascade High School, it's the gymnasium, the science building, the auto shop, and then the cafeteria itself. All right, here's the piece of property we own right across the street from Jefferson Elementary School. It is the one property that we own that would be large enough for a full-sized early learning center without us having to buy property. So certainly the site plan could vary, but Jefferson is just off the bottom of the slide. This is the through street right there. And then this site plan and parking and field area would still leave a lot of undeveloped land. But remember, at this point, that site is outside the city of Everett, and there are no public sewers to this property yet. So ultimately, it might even have to be on a drain field.
Say that again?
There are no public sewers in this portion of Eastmont, in this neighborhood. They're all in drain fields and septic systems. Someday, it's likely it will be part of the city of Everett, and then it will be connected to the public sewers. I'm just
But Mr.
giving.
Moore's not talking right now.
Yeah. This is the schematic site plan that one of our other architects had put together for the Early Learning Center study. And this is the site, this is the building that we located on the site that I just showed you. All right, and then here is the Jefferson Elementary School parking expansion. I told you I had a special place in my heart for expanding this parking lot. There's also some ADA upgrades here on the site that would help provide better ADA access for students and parents and staff, and I would really like to try to do that too. You may remember when we did that project 5 or 6 years ago, we did not have the money at that time to do a full replacement or renovation of all the buildings. So we didn't get to these buildings, and therefore the site areas aren't, we weren't able to adjust the finished floor heights, and so there are still some challenges for kids that are physically disabled to get around.
Does it conform, or is it outside conforming to standards?
It's non-conforming, but it's not in violation of code because you don't have to fix physical or remove physical barriers until you get in and do the work in that area. We are required to modify program if needed to provide access. So we may have to relocate a program if something is located in an area that's not accessible. And we might have to help provide assistance for somebody, but so. All right, so a summary for you is we went through the upcoming events, talked about criteria for future decisions, timing for possible election in 2018, the size and scope of a future capital bond, gave you some advice, passed on some advice from the cabinet and the CFAC, and talked about, so we'll show you some site plans, and then went through a high school design and some other things. Again, for your information, there's another presentation attached. It's 10 or 12 additional site plans. We actually have gone ahead and put together anticipated additions at, I think, 10 or 12 elementary schools of 6 to 8 classrooms each, and those are in the additional presentation, and then there's a couple of other projects in there. And that completes my presentation. Open to questions.
Thank you. Directors.
On your, in your future capital bond planning, I didn't see anything there for elementary school number 18's future expansion. Would it be considered at the 20 or 40 year mark, or would it be something that at this particular point in time, we're not planning that expansion over in the top middle section?
Right there. This is the area of the building of elementary 18 where we would have a future expansion. That's likely would look like, I think, 6 to 8 classrooms. We haven't shown a timeline for that because, and we wouldn't until you gave us more direction around.
As far as programs going to be placed in that?
Which projects you would want on the bond.
Okay.
If you did have us put on the bond some permanent classrooms for K-3 class size reduction, this would be one site that we would probably put them on. Just because it would be a lot cheaper to build additions at this building because it would all be done at the same time as the
At the same
stuff.
time?
Yeah, it would just be included in the project.
Right.
We'd basically expand the scope of this work to include those. Yeah.
If that's like, you're saying that that's like 6 or 8 more classrooms, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's a two-story portion of the building, and I believe that area accommodates 4 more classrooms on each floor.
On each floor,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's, am I right? Yep.
There's potential of early learning center right in that one building. Possible. I'm just saying.
You can do a lot with.
Do whatever you
Yeah,
would call
that's
it. Okay. I'm finished. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Well, I just want to say, I just love all the pictures tonight. This is great.
I know, we had a good time putting it all
Less
together.
texty
Yeah,
slides
yeah.
and a lot more color and.
And it is all going up on the.
It is very
Actually, on the
exciting.
website right now, I think you
Okay,
mentioned that.
it's very exciting
Yeah.
to see. I just want to say thank you and appreciate both the Capital Advisory Council and the Cabinet's recommendations on guidance of how to proceed forward with this bond. It sets a nice framework for us to consider projects. I would say, I think it would be helpful on the elementary expansions to see those, I don't know, are they costed out individually at this point, or
We're
or do you
generic-
sort of have a generic cost?
It's kind of in between. Again, we'll refine costs as we get more direction. We have a generic number for classrooms, and that's around $1 million apiece. I think in the cost estimates, we're actually, the architects and their cost estimators have priced it on a per square foot basis.
Okay.
And then where we we've tried to anticipate some site costs with that. So for example, one of the site plans that we show on the other presentation that we didn't go through with you tonight is to expand the classrooms at Silver Lake Elementary School. And to do that, we would plan to demolish the building, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's one single-story classroom building that we haven't modernized yet. We would actually tear that down and then build a new 2-story building. That's the kind of thing where we would adjust the cost to reflect the anticipated costs on that particular site. But for a while now, we're still going to be working with fairly generic numbers.
I think given the small amount that's sort of left over after the 2 recommended large projects, that it would be helpful to understand a prioritization of those projects in smaller chunks.
The
additions, rather than,
classroom
they're,
additions, I got
they're all
it.
put together in one large amount. And we might get to the point where I know some of our schools are in a bigger pressure point. And that it would be helpful to understand which ones need the relief sooner and what those estimates might look like if we had an extra, just 5 million left over and we wanted to do one of those or something.
We can certainly do that. One thing to keep in mind, when we open the new elementary school, we have the ability to redo elementary boundaries district-wide.
Right, and I guess that would be a part of the
Yeah.
consideration of some of the schools that are most overcrowded, what kind of relief they might be seeing. And I know it's kind of estimates at this time because you don't know where those boundaries are going to be and such, but to help us better understand what some of that looks like, maybe,
Yes, we can do
what
that.
kind of priority we should be thinking about on those projects.
We can do that.
I would ask this question really more for the group. Should we consider something in February of 2018? Are we aware of any other taxing measures that might be out there?
Aside from the slew that just came through.
I'll say I'm not aware of any, but I haven't been actively seeking that information. I think it'll become a lot more clear as we get closer. We will certainly bring that information back to you when we find out what's, some clarity around that.
And certainly with other municipalities or districts or those types of
Yep,
things, I
know of
think
any?
it'd be helpful to know.
There could be a city EMS levy. However, generally, they coordinate with us to avoid the same date.
Right, Mr. Gunn? You've,
Right.
this is a very exciting time. Yeah, these are great presentations. Thank you for all of your hard work and for the team. That's great. All right, we're at section 10.03, the board annual goals progress report. Dr. Cohn.
You have a draft of a first pass at a progress report. Cabinet spent a little bit of time double checking some of the very brief progress descriptors, and we, to some degree, but I wouldn't, load too much value in it, adjusted some colors on the, the stoplight.
This is where the cabinet grades us.
No, it's not. It's where we double check what we think the progress is based on the evidence and artifacts for those very brief descriptions, and try to figure out whether or not we think based on what you want, you will judge yourselves on track. So this is put together so that you can adjust these statements of progress, and you can talk about any of those, any of those sort of progress indicators that, do or don't indicate your self-appraisal of whether or not you're on track.
So, directors, as we look at this, and of course I said that in tongue in cheek, but with some sincerity, because I think we want to know. I would be interested in what was the conversation around some of the yellows. I certainly can speak to the conversations we have as a board and the presentations that we have, but certainly I'd be interested in some of the feedback and or comments that were held around the yellow ones.
Well, by and large, the yellow is really about, gee whiz, it seemed like, if you look at the description on A, and if you look at the description on B and D, that there was a sense that you wanted to spend more time than you already have.
Thank you.
On those topics, and you really haven't spent, compared to all the other things on your calendar, that much time on those things. Now, that there might be some opportunities coming up, before the end of the year that would change that, but at the moment, it doesn't seem like what we're doing, for example, with respect to monitoring the development of a new early learning plan. You've had one study session, you had a little bit of conversation about it, that concept tonight, but it really takes a backseat to a lot of the other things that we're doing, and a lot of it has to do with the extent to which we can develop a really substantive strategic partnership with the city. And frankly, a lot of that's called into question with the mayor deciding that he's not going to run for re-election. So until we have some meetings with candidates and we see the way things, head, and we see what happens to levies as a result of the legislative action, and whether the state takes over responsibility for basic ed, and then there's capacity within levy authority to do this kind of work, it's kind of hard to do much more than we've done already.
Right.
Now, there's a symposium plan that is a very large activity for us. And that will certainly go into your list, because I'm sure you're all going to attend that and participate in it. So I think, really the question that I ask myself when I initially place the colors and then we have some discussion over it is, how will you respond to this in August when you look back over the year, given what I think is coming? Did you do what you intended to do when we talked about this last August? And I think we're kind of in a yellow zone on this. That may not be how you feel. You may feel like, hey, we did this, we'll do that. That's good, that's what we wanted to do. Fine. So it's really about what your expectation is. Because we described the goal, we didn't describe what it looked like when the goal was accomplished. Mm-hmm. We haven't quite reached that level of, I don't want to call it sophistication, I think I want to call it precision with these things. But in fact, we've talked a bit about that as a cabinet, and I think that may be part of what we want to do at the, without totally birdwalking on this thing, at NSBA, is start to look at how boards set their own targets, right, and how they decide.
Measure them.
What are the KPIs? What are the outcomes? Because these are, these outcomes here are the same kind of descriptions we've had for a couple cycles now, and we're probably at the point where as a group, you've reached a level of competence and sophistication, given your multiple awards and the work that you're doing and how you do it, that we probably ought to be sort of ratcheting this thing up at another level. So, that's kind of some of the conversation and thinking about where we are on this. And isn't it nice to be there rather than, gee whiz, should we have some goals? So that was the discussion on that one. Monitor district-wide growth and development of effective instructional practices. We wrestled with that one a little bit because I don't think we've spent with you a great deal of time on, specifics around effective instructional practices, and we're sort of thinking about, okay, where did we address that with you? Was this what you were thinking about? Again, this is an area where, in my view, I think you want more than what you're getting, and we probably need to chit chat a little bit here in the next, I'd say, few weeks about what is that? What would that look like? Given what you've got between now and the end of the year, what might we do that you don't see, and can we build that into some of these presentations?
In some respects, when you say monitor district-wide growth and development of effective instructional practices, I would like to see some more implementation data that says we are reducing the achievement gap. More kids are successfully getting 3s and 4s on AP exams, or 5s, 3s, 4s, and 5s on AP exams. Across the board, the syllabi are the same. More kids are in AP classes getting 3s and 4s, of the underrepresented groups. Things like that. That would give me a little bit more idea as far as effective instructional practice.
And I think that would speak to Dr. Cohn's comment about precision around that.
Precision.
Yeah. I mean, if we would be in agreement on that.
Maybe,
So in some respects, I wouldn't say that's a green. I would say
Yeah,
that's
no.
yellow because
Yeah.
we haven't seen those.
Yeah, well, and some of these may remain yellow.
We don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
If I look at standard 2, 3 sessions held on instructional material adoption and implementation, we want to look at the material adoption and implementation. We had a pretty robust discussion around what can we afford to do in that area, and certainly with all the legislative action, this could become more challenging, and this may be all we're able to do in this area. With the approve and monitor implementation of integrated technology plan, my guess is, that is correctly a yellow at this point, because we're still very much in the development phase where we are beginning to roll out or have execution, but it isn't scalable at this point, so that would be appropriate at this point. So, yeah, you graded us well, thank you. Any other comments?
I personally, on standard 5B, don't feel like that would be a green. And I know that might be an odd one for people, but, we develop our platform, but primarily Tracy does that, and I'm just saying, for me as a director, I guess, I feel I'm yellow. And then a lot of the work that's done in Olympia is not the directors. We go into our 15-minute meeting with our legislative reps, and we get to tell them what our priorities are, but it's quick, and it's not relationship building, and it's not the kind of depth I don't think that they're looking for to actually make decisions on the floor. And I guess I'm thinking to myself, going forward, I would like to be more informed and be able to, as a director, be more actively involved in reaching out to our legislators and helping guide them. And maybe we get credit, I feel like we do get credit because you guys are doing such an excellent job at that, with the different committees and driving to Olympia and such. But I don't feel like I'm effective in that regard as a director.
One thing that I remember that particular item is being able to sit in on a meeting with our legislative reps here and actually actually be able to hear what they're saying, hear what they're receiving from the staff, and confirm it, and actually have that one-on-one relationship with them to reinforce that's a need, that's an issue that we like. And I don't know, we haven't, maybe the two of you have had the opportunity of sitting in when legislative reps come, but we haven't had them in a couple of months. We haven't had them here in a couple of months. Not that I can recall.
But we did that in the fall. And then we tried to avoid to some degree a lot of the election activities. Right, so now they're coming back for town hall meetings, and we can certainly schedule you into town hall meetings in that part if you'd like. And I'm going to be going to Olympia on Monday, and if you want to run around Olympia a little bit and visit folks, you're welcome to. I think it wouldn't be necessarily a good idea to do 3 at once, but I think up to 2 is a possibility. It's a day. In that case, it's another day. Yes, absolutely. And that's fine. We could do that. We just remember we've been really sensitive about your time commitments, but there's extra seats in the car.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Caroline, I hear your comments as, and I'd be curious how Director Mitchell would assess this. Because on our school board, we tend to turn that position over every year. And I think there is traction, or every 2 years, but I think there's more traction when an effective legislative representative from the board is probably in that position for 3, 4, 5 years, because they can build the relationships, they become the subject matter experts, they do some of the things that I think you're hoping that we would aspire to do, as opposed to, I read this and say, well, it's a fairly passive activity. We look at our legislative priorities, we review them, we ask them questions. We meet here or in Olympia, but that's about it. And it's how do we elevate our game to be more subject matter experts or go-to folks in this area? And maybe is that the spirit of your comments?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Just a comment going forward as we look to, as you mentioned, sort of elevate our effectiveness as a board. I think that's an area for some improvement. And I'm not even sure, going with you on Monday would certainly be a great learning opportunity, but that's not.
Independent work.
Yeah, it's not exactly what I envision. It's more what are activities I can do to help support the work that you're already doing? Independently, is just from a different perspective, because they want to hear from their school board, I think. They want to hear something, and I just don't know what to tell them right now.
We can give you some bullet points.
Well, yeah, and I have the big picture idea, and
right now Jeff doesn't know what to tell them other than, oh my gosh, it's 16 million. Not 14, Yeah, and it's not that we haven't, been given a lot of data, but when it comes to a concise email that I can send them that I feel like might impact their thinking on a topic, I don't feel very effective. And so, and I would be willing to send, a couple emails throughout the session and say, hey, did you see this? And so I'm not sure, something to think about going forward. Okay, so I think that's one that I'm going to ask you and Darlene to work with Jeff and Dana and me on, because we can certainly generate a system for directors being able to devote some time to that. Absolutely, we can do that.
So,
all of you? One of you, 2 of you, 3 of you?
I think you always make it available to all.
Available to all of us. Yeah. Not that we do it in 3 happening at one time. We can't do that, but just so that if we have the opportunity of being in the presence of one of our legislature, here's a good thing that you need about that.
Okay.
I don't know, this is a hard conversation to have with 2 missing directors too, sort of the general direction of.
Well, you kind of want some different things.
And realizing too that we still have a legislative rep
Responsible for that basic work.
responsible for that.
Right. And I actually just, it'd be great to have Tracy here tonight because I just don't know what she's been doing, and where she is with that and where she'd like some support or not, or.
I think we think Olympia when we think this, but the reality is, if I were to look at our effectiveness in community engagement, I think it's local races too. And where are people on their positions with public education, specifically Everett Public Schools and local races. I think, that could be county council, that can be city council, that can be, mayoralships. So I don't think it's just limited to Olympia.
So, for example, we've invited all 3 mayoral candidates in to talk with us, and I think we have a date for one, but we haven't got dates for the other 2.
Right.
That will probably be
Would it be appropriate or inappropriate to sit at the table?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But if there's 3 of you, then we have a...
Right.
Right.
But divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
Depending
If
on
you'd like
people's,
us to
my
send
guess
those-
is people's schedule's going to do that naturally.
Send those
anyhow.
dates around to you. Okay. Then, Debbie will do that
I'd be very interested in those.
as soon as we know. Okay? All right. So you want to keep that one green, or do you want to change it to yellow?
Say again?
Do you want to keep that one green, or do you want to change it to yellow?
I like yellow.
I personally would go with yellow, but
Okay.
I'm
We can do that. 2 out of 3.
comfortable with that.
I'm
2 out of 3. You got outvoted.
Majority.
Okay. Second here. I'm changing it.
Any other comments for this area on our board annual goals? Those were good comments, Director Mason.
The thing that gets me with the one study session on early learning, standard 2, item D. We've had that.
True. That's true, yes.
How are we going to expand the progress report? I mean, we've already done that. The progress is great, we've done that. Have we gone beyond that? We didn't really set up with what would that look like.
True. Maybe that's green. Maybe you want more. My impression from the conversation
We want more.
is you wanted a little more out of it, but we don't really have a lot to give you right now.
Yeah.
I know, and it's something that you can't plan on in some respect.
Well,
Or can we?
Continuous
monitoring.
you got one more big event, right? We thought we might have another thing or 2 happening, and really the mayor is critical in this work, has been in the way we've approached it. So his decision means that we sort of go into a little bit of a holding pattern on early learning as a priority that involves a strategic and long-term partner in the work. There's no question about that. In my view, there's not. But so I think things outside of your control affect our ability to move forward to some degree.
It's out of our control, we've done this.
You could, if you want.
I think it could go either way. I have no preference.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's pretty vague, so.
Green,
I would stay with yellow.
stay with yellow?
The rest of it seem okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have what you need?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'll create this a PDF and we'll put it up on Board Docs, and I'm sure people will flock to it from all over the country.
Well, do you need more feedback? All right, thank you. We're now at section 11.0. We've come to the second time slot in our agenda for public comments. Dr. Cohen, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right. We're now at section 12.0, unfinished business. There's no unfinished business scheduled for this evening, which brings us now to section 13.0, new business. And I think we have 3 policy revisions. And Larry. He's
Well, good
already-
evening.
Geez, like a ghost.
So in December of 2016, WASDA released a model policy update, an essential level update for policy 3140, which is the release of resident students. Those updates precipitated a review of all the policies and procedures related to student transfers and non-resident student transfers. Because of our review, proposed revisions to policy 3131, school attendance area changes and transfers, are before you this evening. As you can see from the attached document, the only revision to this policy is a change in its title. This title change was made to distinguish in-district transfers distinctly from non-resident transfers in the title.
Directors, any questions for Larry? Then under general consent, we will move it to the consent agenda for the next school board meeting. Thank you.
All right.
Section 13.0, policy 3140, release of resident students, proposed revision, first reading.
So as I had previously stated, in December, there was an essential update for policy 3140, release of resident students. And this was to add an additional justification for the release of resident students pursuant to state statute RCW 28A 225-220, as amended by engrossed substitute Senate Bill 5946. Proposed revisions to this procedure were made to clarify the reasons why a student would request a transfer to another district or program. Primarily, the specificity of this policy is for transfer to online programs following RCW 28A 250-020. Revisions also align our policy language to state law and OSPI regarding the release of students. The appeals process to OSPI was also included in these revisions.
I'll, not related to this policy, but this notion Larry mentioned, online enrollments, that we've had some conversation within the county about some parents who are seeking to enroll in districts and using the online program as the reason. And then as soon as they get in, switching to homeschool and availing themselves of the right to get their students into sports programs, which is kind of an interesting sort of a...
How often does that?
I don't know how often it happens, but it's creating some ripples throughout the county. And as we look at our this is outgoing, right? But I want you to know, as we talk about incoming, we don't offer athletic programs for everybody in the world. We offer an educational program, and the athletic program is part of a full program. So that wouldn't be something we would want to deal with. So I want you to have that in the back of your minds as we move forward.
You know, my guess is, though, to your comment, that we can find an outlier with every one of our policies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Right. So if you have no comments or suggested changes for this one, we could move it to second reading on the next meeting.
All right. Thank you. Section 13.03, policy 3141, non-resident students, proposed revision. First reading.
So in that review of all policies and procedures related to the changes in policy 3140, proposed revisions were made to policy 3141 to align our policy to our current fair and equitable practice regarding the use of OSPI's choice transfer system that we are obliged to follow. Revisions include the notice of the appeal process to OSPI for parents. Not a huge change.
I have a question. How does this relate to the alternative high school? If there's any particular program that's there for students that may not have an alternative high school in their district?
Mm-hmm. So like all non-resident students, they have to apply to our school district for admittance. Priority is given to intra-district transfers.
Is Sequoia open to external enrollments?
Not that it would fall under the same procedures that we have for a non-resident student.
I want to make sure inter-district transfer to Sequoia High School would be given priority over a non-resident.
Well, it's considered open enrollment, and that's more defined in the procedure itself.
I don't think it's considered a transfer.
Okay.
But that kind of,
Or maybe.
once again, that's a procedural piece,
Okay.
which we are currently working on the revisions to those as well after making these policy changes and updates. So those will be available soon as we're working those pieces out. But in procedure, there are 3 schools that are open to open enrollment. That would be Port Gardner, which is the home schools, Sequoia, and Lighthouse at Jefferson Elementary.
Oh, so Sequoia is open enrollment?
It's considered open enrollment, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if there were a non-resident, like was seeking, this specific program towards graduation, would they still be allowed to enroll in Sequoia?
They are
Their program
allowed
is unique.
they're allowed to make an application for transfer, whether they're from it's open to folks to apply.
Okay.
It does not necessarily guarantee they get
Give
in.
them that transfer. It doesn't give them that transfer, that variance, and no more variances.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to just double check. So that what we publish on our website is that Sequoia is a district choice program, and it's open for in-district enrollment transfers, depending on space availability, but it's closed to students outside of Everett Public Schools. There are some instances where kids end up there because they're in the district for another reason.
Okay,
But,
gotcha.
but we don't operate an alternative high school for outside enrollment.
Right, okay, gotcha. But if they end up in the district for outside
There are
reasons-
some instances, as Ted was noting, where you've got
Yeah,
that happens
okay,
for unusual reasons.
yeah.
And we also don't operate, as some districts have done in the past, robust online programs that generate lots of money for the district without much cost. We do not do that. Our online program is for our kids. Again, not that there aren't a few exceptions, but generally that program's for Everett kids.
I have a question about McKinney-Vento students coming from out of district. Are they excluded from this policy where even if we have a school that's closed, we are required to accept students if they want to return to their home school?
I'm glad you asked the question. We are currently working on, and you might have seen in your update with Dr. Cohn, we're working on the homeless students policy procedure. And specifically, there is a process within there about determining the best placement of the student. Sometimes that's geographically closest to where they are currently staying. Sometimes it's in the school they have just come from. But there is a portion within the procedure that goes through this sequential decision-making process about where the best placement is for the student.
And that just applies to those students?
That would just only apply to
that
those
sort of is a priority over any other policies we have in place for transfers and such?
Well, what it would
do they
mean
align?
is if you were to have a student who, let's say, was at Sequoia High School and is now geographically living outside of the district and happens to be KIT, we would apply that procedure and that decision-making process to best placement, and then determine whether or not they would continue to be at Sequoia. So that would be an example of how that would be applied. Without a specific situation,
What about a situation where a student was attending Jackson, parents separate, they want to return to their home school, but there's not, isn't that how the McKinney-Vento works, where if a kid is
so this particular student you're describing has 2 parents, they're homeless?
or they're not in district anymore, but the child isn't residing with either of them, could they return to Jackson? Is that a scenario?
My recollection was that the KIT program is about keeping the youngster where they are when they become homeless and transporting them wherever it is that we're supposed to provide. So we'll bus our kids all kinds of, or drive them all kinds of different places.
Right, so my point is they're.
So it's about keeping them at the school they're at when they
Right.
become homeless so that they don't bounce around.
Right, I understand that.
Versus moving them to other schools, which isn't out of the question, but not really the intent.
No, that's what I understand, but my point is if they're all of a sudden living in Seattle, that we say they can stay there even though now they're, out of district.
So you mean?
Stay where?
At their home school, like at Jackson.
If they were at Jackson and they became homeless and living in Seattle, we transport them to Seattle.
Right.
Correct.
Okay,
Which
I'm just
isn't- which
curious
is-
how all that plays into
That's-
non-resident students, if it's just
Well,
completely different
yeah.
because of the federal.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
requirements.
frankly, I'm not sure whether we decide that they're non-residents or not. This is about kids, non-resident is about kids whose home is in another district, their domicile is in another district, they're not homeless. Their home is there, that's where their parents' residence or their guardian's residence is, and they want to come in. Which, that's not what a
Semantics,
homeless
kinda.
kid is.
I understand.
There's a certain amount of discretion here, I would think, for these situations that are being described.
Well, they're all fact-based, and
Sure.
And when you look at a kid who's in a regular ed program versus a special ed program versus the KIT program, you got some different factors that operate. So this is really about the general cases.
Right.
Kid comes in and says, "I want to go to Glacier Peak,"
Right.
And here's the policy and procedure that applies. And generally, we say, "Okay, wherever it happens to be, okay." That's really not the area where we have trouble. The area where we have trouble is we close schools, right? And we have variances, we have internal variances or transfers, internal, external transfers. And then we have a state law that says we have to give priority to teachers, employees, and within feeder patterns. And so then you get into some very complex issues, especially when you get to a point where you're full and then you get additional kids and you don't have room. And then you have to have an order to back, exactly. And so far, we have avoided kicking kids out once the year starts. Well, we have, so our general practice is people expect to stay in the schools once they've got a variance. And at 3 schools recently, even though they have to apply every year, the rules are very, they're printed. We've come to the point where on 3 of the elementaries, we had to say, you're not going to get renewed. You're going to need to go home to your home district because we don't have room for our kids. And you remember when we dealt with the Woodside, Silver Lake, right, and all those moves, and we just had to, and then Penny Creek, and of course Jackson. So I mean, we've reached the point with multiple schools where we're just full, based on the, and I think, as I recall, Mike's drilling this into me, based on the permanent capacity of the school.
Any other questions for Larry?
Oh, Larry's happy to answer all your questions. He's been working this terribly hard over the last several weeks.
Thank you, by the way. I know you have.
Transfer variance again.
Thanks for getting it right for us.
You're welcome.
Then under general consent, we will move it to the an agenda.
Great.
Thank you.
You need to learn how to incorporate a few cool pictures with your policies.
Yeah, not the most glamorous.
We need more
visuals.
pictures. We're kind of picture addicted tonight.
All right. We're now at section 14.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Cohn?
Item 14.1 is your special meeting on March 14. It is a work session, and you will be treated to a grueling set of activities by Mr. Moore's operation. I know you're looking forward to that like you do every year. It's going to be especially exciting based on the unusual things happening in the state legislature. Item 14.2 is your next regular meeting. It's the 21st of March. We have at that meeting 2 strategic progress monitoring items. One is high school readiness, which I will tell you right now, based on the hour we spent on it in cabinet, is not going to be a 30-minute item. unless you want a whole bunch of good stuff kicked out of that section. I will tell you that the work that's being done in the middle schools and Larry's work at recrafting that particular update is, I think, remarkable. And its ties, its linkage, its close linkage to KPOs and KPIs, you will, I think you'll be very impressed with, and it will motivate you with respect to your own board goals. I'm absolutely certain. The other item is Springboard implementation update, which we also spent a great deal of time on in cabinet, and I think can tie very much to that board goal on instructional practices, which is right. So that was kind of one of the areas I think you were thinking about. We intend to have a recognition. We received a STEM Lighthouse Award from OSPI, and CJ is going to be here with Dana and would like to present that. So it's really kind of a recognition for us and our program, and OSPI staff will be here to do that. You'll have a second reading on the 3 policies that you just reviewed, and you've got a slew of general operating business items, the second quarter financial report. We've got an elementary literacy adoption first reading, and that will be probably an hour. I mean, that is a $2.5 million investment. It is a K-5, it's a major thing, so that's really significant. So time management is going to be really critical at this particular meeting. You'll have a February financial report in your consent agenda. We expect to be able to have after tonight's closed session and the union's action of collective bargaining agreement on your consent agenda. And you'll have the elementary literacy adoption a second time that evening, apparently. You're going to have a safety and security update, which means we may decide we want to move to a different meeting. And then you've got some special education contracts, which we're planning, and I will correct that duplication in that area. That is it for your March meeting.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cohn. We are now at section 15.0, Board Superintendent comments and meeting evaluation. Amy, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, well, I have to say, it was pretty amazing to walk in and see that there's so many people in here and all the recognitions tonight. And we haven't had a school board meeting for a while, so there's been a lot going on, and a few things at Everett High School at least are sports-wise. I think the boys' basketball team went to districts, and it has been a while since they've done it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but I heard it was a good game. I know that a lot of DECA students went to state just recently, I think about a week and a half ago or a week. And I learned from Cascade that I think they want second in place, but I have to ask because she mentioned it to me, Raina, she mentioned it to me, but I wasn't sure. And I know one of the students in one of my classes, he's in DECA, and he won first in state on finances. So that was pretty amazing. And there was culture night last week, and I've gone to all of them, and it was pretty amazing to see just all the different cultures. And this year there was so many flags and people from all these different places we didn't have before. It was pretty amazing to see all the cultures come together, and there was a dance afterwards, so it made it even funner. And of course there was the legislative conference, and it was very different from last year. Well, first of all, there was 3 students last year, now there's 6. So there's so many different perspectives of different schools and how education is just so important to all of us. So I just want to say thank you for that opportunity to help advocate for the students and the education we all need. So.
If I might footnote that, I don't know that I said this earlier, but I've been seeing a lot of wonderful emails flying around. I shared this at Rotary with some happy bucks. Between the 3 high schools, we have 27 students going to the national DECA competition in Anaheim, which actually I did once upon a time when I was teaching. Took a bunch of kids down to Anaheim for the national conference. No, I won't be chaperoning that trip. It's a great deal of fun. So we're really proud of those kids' work. Aren't we, Dr. Stewart?
Are you chaperoning?
Are you Joyce?
No, she's not chaperoning.
Sally? Are you going? Are you chaperoning? No?
Not that she knows yet.
Director Lassane, any comments?
Yes, I do want to say congratulations to Principal Cindy Foster and all of the Lowell leopards that were in the audience today, the staff and the students. I would like to say that she's done an outstanding job, and I'm glad she's representing Everett Public School as principal in this of the year in this region. The second one is without the help and support of the PTSA, we couldn't do our job. We really couldn't, because we have to really engage parents and engage teachers to work together and make it a very smooth integration of the learning experience for our kids. We just couldn't do it, and congratulations to them. And congratulations to Michelle Nims for being the state PTSA president. That's an awesome opportunity for her. I'd just like to say congrats to all the NAACP Prodigies for Peace recipients. It really shows that they're interested and excited about displaying their work, and I'm very grateful that we continue that, keep that element of civic responsibility in our schools, and the kids are really engaged in that work. That's important. I was able to attend the legislative conference this past year, and I'm very grateful that we had a wonderful group of kids and students from our schools that were able to be on the forefront of explaining the situation here in Everett to them, so they have a clearer picture from the students' perspective. And we couldn't do that without them standing up for themselves as well as standing up for their fellow students. I did attend the technology talk with parents. That was very important. And one thing I learned from that is that computers aren't going away. And in fact, they probably, more types of devices will be used in the future. The question was asked, how many devices do we each today utilize? And would you believe there were some in the audience that had individually over 5 devices? And I'm grateful that I don't have that many yet, because I'm not quite sure if I would be able to operate 5 different devices. But then too, I found out they were including their Xbox, their TVs, because guess what? They attach to the internet. Lo and behold, who would have thunk? But anyway, amazing. I had a good opportunity to attend the Emerson breakfast meeting, and I do want to say that Paul Edwards out there and the staff at Emerson is doing an outstanding job. Several of the comments that I heard from parents were that they strive for student recognition. They care a lot for each individual student, and just keeping the kids engaged. They have Jedi Math Club, Jedi Academy in math, and expanded, learning opportunities is fantastic. They were very excited to continue to have me come back a couple of times, which is really great. And he's going to have more and more breakfasts with parents, and has invited me to come back to be able to speak with other parents. And I think that's fantastic. Each one of the parents that I had an opportunity to talk with are very proud that their kids are going to Emerson, and the care that the teachers place in, there with their students. It's just amazing. I also had an opportunity to attend the Silver Lake breakfast meeting, and that's where I found out that over 180 kids were in a Spanish club. Now, that's amazing. We're here in middle school, the elementary school at Silver Lake, they'll be learning Spanish even before they get to middle school, so that's a positive thing. But there are so many, and I know the time is late. I won't go into a lot of things today, but I will at the next meeting tell you a lot more. I have a lot of notes. I was very good at taking a lot of notes this time. And the aspiration there at Silver Lake is astonishing, because the big concern that I saw there from the parents and one parent put it specifically, we want to make sure that our kids, no matter where they live in the district, that they're getting the same fundamental, foundational experience if they live in the north, the middle, and the south region. And I must say that's very important, and I see our focuses in that. When we say that we want to get 100% of our students to graduation, we want to reduce or bring up the next 20% and have zero opportunity gaps. No matter where you are, whatever demographics you are, you can get the same experience at all of our schools. I mean, that's important. And that's one of the things that I've been very interested in pursuing as a board member, and I want to continue that effort. I did also attend the saucer at Forest View, and I must say that their saucer was fantastic. They did an excellent job, and they're doing such great work up there at Forest View. And I must say, some of the things that they're doing, I hope we can get those things spread out to other schools. They could steal them. Oh, it's never called stealing, it's called collaboration. So, that's all I have to say.
Director Mason.
Okay, I have a list. Go quickly. I had an opportunity I was invited by a parent to tour the Lighthouse co-op program, which I knew very little about in our district, and very interesting what they're doing there and providing some slightly different opportunities for our students. Got to go to the View Ridge Art Walk and Auction, and I have to say it is incredible what two dedicated, impressive art docents do. So we have visuals. I wanted to create my own slide presentation like Dr. Cohn gets, but I didn't think that would probably be allowed. But I have lots of artwork pictures, but each class did a collaborative project, and then they auctioned them off that night. And I think they actually made some pretty decent money, which was great. But just a really, really fun evening. Fun to see folks from my yesteryears too. I attended the legislative conference. We've heard all about that. Got to go to the Everett High boys basketball game, the one just before districts that they did win, and to be in that house when that happens is just such a amazing experience. And then also got to attend the Everett High auction, which the two are kind of connected because it's just a really dedicated alumni group in that area of our district. And these people come out to support the teams. They come out to give money for the students, and they do it in a very robust way. And then I got to go back and go to the Everett High Saucer, which is just near and dear to my heart because it's just so fun as a parent to see all the great work that's going on from the other side of the table. And then I did also get to go to the Economic Alliance annual forecast, which was very interesting. My first one, and something I'll look forward to doing again in the future. So, and I'll just concur with you on all the great recognitions tonight.
Dr. Cohn.
Nothing more tonight. Thank you.
I will make my comments brief. Had the opportunity to attend the parent meeting with Whittier and North. And just two things that kind of struck me that came out of the Whittier one. One was certainly the buildup of the North End with Everett Community College, Washington State University, and the whole notion of safety and student safety and what's happening there. But you heard from parent after parent after parent who said, I moved here specifically for Whittier Elementary. I mean, it was just incredibly high praise. And then there was discussion about how uniforms create equity. And they're a school that has uniforms, and they felt very good about what was going on. What was interesting to note is when they had the conversation about North Middle School, I think of all the communication that we had tonight around the bond and what's happening at North, and I was amazed at how many, there were maybe 2 or 3 parents who said, oh, did the bond pass, or are we getting a new middle? I mean, it was shocking. But what it says to me is so many times that, and I face this at the Y, we concentrate our communication up here, but what a parent gets is really what's local. And its local context, as we've heard before, means everything. And same with North at their opportunity. There was, I think, a real opportunity to communicate what's going to be happening there, because that's going to be a foundational project for that community, where $55 million is going to be pumped into a neighborhood that it could be transformational. And I think we need to share more about that and what that means. Amy, I appreciated your comments on the cultural nights and how they are expanding, much like the Prodigies of Peace, and how they're expanding. And I appreciate Georgia Lindquist's comment when she was doing the world language updates, and she said the knowledge and skills to interact with awareness, empathy, and in-depth cultural perspectives. And I thought, yeah, that is exactly what we try to do, and we're not perfect at it, but we get better at it each year. And I'm very proud of the work that our staff does and our school board does to ensure equity and access for all of our students. So I think it's deeply embedded within the organization. So those are my comments. So we are now at section 16.0, and from time to time, the Board of Directors will hold a closed session for a purpose authorized by the Open Public Meetings Act. If this occurs, the board will recess for a certain amount of time. Before convening in closed session, the president will publicly announce the general purpose for excluding the public from the meeting, the time when the closed session will be concluded, and whether action is expected to be taken following the closed session. The closed session may be extended by a stated later time by announcement of the president. All closed discussions are confidential and will be held in confidence by each board member. We have scheduled 20 minutes for this closed session. So with that, we will excuse the staff. Thank you for the wonderful presentations tonight.
No action will be taken.
And no action will be taken during the closed session.
Afterwards.
Yes.
Period.
Period.
Ever.